Hey, Bunkfunkers, we finally have merch. Check it out at MrBunkersConspiracyTime.com/merch. There's a link in the description also. We got t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, posters, and more, plus free shipping to the US, UK, EU, and Canada. That's MrBunkersConspiracyTime.com/merch.
In Chicago, two comedian skeptics named Andy and Art were mysteriously abducted by the illusionary mastermind and conspiracy theorist known only as Mr. Bunker. The following serves as a record of Bunker's attempt to convince non-believers of the truth about conspiracies and paranormal activity. Andy and Art give an uninterrupted presentation and verdict on the plausibility of these offbeat topics, delivering what they call the whole enchilada. Will Mr. Bunker convince these two skeptics any of this is real? Will it convince you?
Welcome to Mr. Bunker's Conspiracy Time podcast. As always, I'm your co-host, Arthur Stone. And let me tell you, with me as always is your co-host, Andy Hart.
Hi, Art. Hey, glad to be back on the program.
Hey, Andy. Good to see you. We got a great podcast for you today, folks. Podcast fans, you're in for a treat.
Everybody, buckle your seatbelts and get ready for your seventh inning stretch. Because today we are talking about the hypothesis that sports is fake.
That's right, Andy. And the two co-hosts of the show, number 00, Andy Hart, and number 69, Arthur Stone.
Nice.
Stone has a tight little build and a hot little bod, and I think Hart complements that really well.
They say opposites attract, and two players couldn't be more opposite than these two. Folks, we're in for an evening of hot, sexy action here on Mr. Bunker's Conspiracy Time podcast.
Wow, hello, listeners. That is right.
Sponsored by Pepsi.
Whoa, we are?
We are now.
Bunker, when did we start making the big bucks? We got Pepsi?
Yeah.
Wow. We're going to get to hang out with Kylie Jenner.
Oh, yeah, and Britney Spears.
And
Michael Jackson's
still
hair.
relevant. Wait, what?
Huh?
His hair?
Yeah, the hair that caught on fire.
Oh.
That was a Pepsi commercial.
I thought you were saying because he's dead, the only thing that's growing is his hair and his fingernails.
And his popularity.
Oh, boy. Yikes.
Everybody, if you... Look, Art and I are we're going to start talking to each other about how we got here. And... if you're not about all that, if you're just like, I love sports not being real and I want to dig right in.
That's right.
Art, what should they do?
Andy, great segue.
Smooth as
listeners, if you want to get straight to the research and you don't want to hear Andy and I vamp, or if you don't want to hear how we got captured, it's fun. You can listen, but you don't have to. You can look in the time. You can look in the show notes for any podcasting app that you choose. And there will always be a timestamp to the exact moment the research begins. You can skip right ahead. But anyway, Andy,
jump to it. Find out about sports being fake.
Jump right to the research. You don't have to listen to us. I hope that you do. I hope that
we like talking to you.
We like our listeners.
Yabba dabba doo. We like talking to you.
That's right. Fred Flintstone over here. Bonnie. Wilma!
Well, gee, I don't know, Fred. I got a dinosaur for you.
Your first attempt at...
Where's those Fruity Pebbles? What those Fruity Pebbles? Fruity Pebbles.
Your first attempt at Fred Flintstone sounded sort of like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the third live-action Flintstones movie.
If only
Wilma!
Get to the chopper.
Get to the bedrock! I need a brontosaurus rib!
No, you don't understand. We need to power the car with our feet. I don't have an engine.
This car's going too fast.
What were we doing?
We were
What's
getting
this podcast?
It's about conspiracies.
Oh, yes.
And all things bizarre. And one feature of this podcast is that in order to produce the podcast, you and I are captured each week by the illusionary mastermind known only to us as Mr. Bunker.
That's right.
Even though I've started calling him Kenneth.
Oh.
I don't know if that's his name.
Oh. I didn't realize you guys were on a first-name basis.
I like to imagine that he grew up by the sea. Kenny Bunkport. So he became Kenny Bunker.
Is that in Maine?
Yeah.
I hear they have great beaches there. Hey, any listeners from Maine? Shout out to Maine.
Oh, I got lobsters. It's like crabs, but it hurts more.
Oh, God. They'll pinch you. Hey, more pinching action coming later. I promise you that.
Wink.
That's the RD guarantee. Andy, would you like to hear how I got captured?
Ooh, would I ever? I am sitting here with bated breath.
Oh, yeah. Bated breath and a bated boner.
Yeah.
I see that little boner.
I'm the master at baiting.
There we go. Andy, as longtime listeners of the show, first-time listeners, hello, will know marijuana, the devil's lettuce, the green machine, Mary Jane, weed,
Skunk bunk.
That's Dirker.
Yeah.
That good ganj.
Mm-hmm.
That good has recently become recreationally legal, or will be at the start of the new year,
Right.
here in Chicagoland.
In all of Illinois.
In all of Illinois. But let's be honest. I'm joking. Illinois, you're fine. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that.
Wow. Shout out to our downstate listeners.
Carbondale, you're worth something. Peoria, you're worth something. Springfield, Sandwich, Plano, Yogurt, Rockford. That's more north.
Champaign. Boy, we could have a delicious
Bloomington,
meal.
Neat.
Sandwich and champagne.
Anyway, weed is going to become legal in Illinois. We are one of the newest states to enact legal recreational marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Andy, I know that you and I don't partake in the anything fun, really, that most people find fun.
Not anymore, Art. I have smoked marijuana before.
Wow. You're here to reverse, folks. Andy inhaled.
I've also inhaled it through a vaporizer.
Wow. So you're fucking cool. I get it. You went to fucking toga parties in college, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I stayed inside and played video games with my roommates.
I stepped on my toga, and my toga fell off in front of the police.
That's hot. You're a real Animal House, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, weed will become legal soon. And, I think that's fine and dandy. If you partake in the devil's lettuce, good for you. I don't really give a shit. But at the same time, Andy, I got to tell you, these vapes are becoming a problem. They're in the news,
Yeah, you sound like the CDC.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to learn that, you know what? Novel idea, inhaling smoke into your lungs, bad for you.
Just in general.
Yeah. Whether it's campfire smoke, which I love to inhale. Who doesn't love to inhale a nice, delicious campfire smoke?
I love nothing more than to cover a roaring campfire with a huge trash bag and then poke a small hole in the top and then put a straw into it so that I can just inhale all that woody goodness.
I love to core an apple and then put another little hole on the other side of an apple and then stuff it filled with campfire smoke. And then I know how to make an apple into a bong. Okay, I'm cool.
Okay.
I'm cool. These vapes, Andy, they're becoming a problem. Kids are using them. High school kids love their jewels.
Boy, do they ever.
Oh, they can't get enough of them. And you know what I got to say? If you vape, that's fine. You shouldn't, but it's fine for health reasons. But you know what's fine?
Mm-hmm.
It's your body, your choice. Don't do it on public transportation. Andy, you ever been on the bus and some cool teen saunters up to the back of the bus where you're sitting trying to listen to a podcast and just enjoy your ride, and some hip, cool teen with his electric skateboard comes up and rips a fat little vape cloud in your face. How rude is that?
It's very rude.
Don't do that. I don't give a shit if it's vape clouds. I don't want smoke in my face.
Yeah. I do feel like some people feel like since it's a vape instead of smoke, that the shackles are off.
Right.
And you can vape
It's no holds
any
bar.
location. Like you could walk into a hospital and just be vaping inside an operation.
I love just going to the infirmary and just ripping fat clouds on all those sick patients' face. So you got leukemia? That sucks, bro.
Top places to vape. The ICU, number 1.
Yeah. Maternity ward, number 2.
Number
Get
3,
those babies
the morgue.
I love going to that. What do they call the area where they keep all the babies lined up in a row? And
Nursery.
The nursery. I love just going in there and handing out vapes
Yeah.
to all the kids.
Yeah, kids love vaping.
Just get them started real soon.
Yeah.
Vaping's cool. So Andy, I was walking around, downtown, and it was pretty busy because it's been like the last day of summer, really. The weather forecast is starting to show the fall temperatures are coming in, which I'm looking forward to. But the last days of summer are here, and people are out and about, and they're walking around. And, well, it's, I needed to get off. I needed to get off one of the main streets of downtown, like State Street or Michigan Avenue. If you've ever been on these big city streets, they can get really packed with people trying to go where they're going, tourists, sightseeing, walking around. They don't know where they're going. It just, you know what? When you're a city goer trying to go from A to B, Andy, you got to sometimes take those side streets.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I took a side street and I thought, oh boy, this isn't good. It started getting real dark. I was like, where are the streetlights? Where's it was like in the middle of the day and all of a sudden it was getting dark. I think the clouds were covering up the sky.
An encroaching storm.
Maybe an encroaching storm. And let me tell you, there was a storm encroaching because out from behind a dumpster,
Mm-hmm.
and I was all alone, mind you, out pops Bunker. Just out in the blue. There he is. And I go...
By himself,
just
unadorned?
by himself, unadorned. He pulls out the fattest, heaviest. This thing looked like it was from BattleBots, that show. You remember Robot Wars or BattleBots?
Yeah.
Looked like one of those. Just this sick. And it was colored like Gravedigger, the monster truck.
Uh-huh.
Sickest vape. And this, he blows the fattest. He rips the fattest little vape cloud I've ever seen. I looked at it. I saw exactly what Bunker was using. Andy, he was using a Bunkcenter Cloud Atomizer, a Z69X with a Fathead Muffmaster Hydrocoil Limited Hemi Edition.
Wow.
Vape. And he was ripping 40 ohms of fat fucking cloud strawberry creme brulee breast milk, 20 milligrams e-juice. And he just rips the fattest little cloud. And this cloud envelops me, Andy. Oh, yeah. Envelops me. And I get carried away like I'm fucking Goku from Dragon Ball. You remember how Goku rode a cloud in Dragon Ball? You don't remember? That's fine. This magic staff. And this cloud envelops me and it carries me to the bunker, Andy. I was in the sky. He ripped a fat fucking vape cloud in my face. Strawberry creme brulee breast milk. What a flavor.
Is that the flavor?
That was the flavor. I was like tasting it. I was like, strawberry, creme brulee, breast milk? I didn't even know they made that a flavor, but apparently they do.
Wow.
Bunkcenter. I guess the newest, hottest brand of vape.
Wow. Is he, I guess.
Well, Bunker was always a smoker. We know that.
Right.
So
maybe.
I guess maybe he's trying to get down his nicotine levels.
This is unusually corporate for him if he's, was he going to be on Shark Tank?
I mean, maybe. I mean, you know what? He's a tinkerer. We know that. Andy.
Yeah.
So he made his own brand of vape because I guess he didn't want to use Juul or any of the other brands.
So he was smoking a Hemi.
It had a Hemi engine in it. It had a Hemi. It was a Hemi.
Smoking a Hemi.
It's a Hemi.
He's
just like
vaping a Hemi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was I'm telling you, Andy, it was huge. He had two hands. I'm telling you, this thing looked like one of those BattleBots, but it was painted like Gravedigger, the monster truck.
This is one hell of a vape.
I mean, it looked like a Power Wheels,
yeah.
like a RC car type
Yeah.
thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Power wheels.
40 ohms.
What do any of those measurements mean?
You got me. I'm not cool enough to vape. You got to ask Bunker. 40 ohms of, Muff Master Hydro Coil Fathead. Limited edition Hemi.
Yeah.
So I guess get them while they're hot, listeners. Bunk Tech Vapes. In stores now. You can find them at all your favorite vape shops like fucking Smokescreen, Smoke Shop, Vape Monkey. All your vape shops.
Go to any store that has a like clown face on the sign.
The more obnoxious the marijuana leaf is on the logo, the better the store.
Look for stores with multicolored lights lining the window, multicolored LED lights lining the window, and some sort of a smiling evil clown on its logo. And you'll find undoubtedly inside is smoking paraphernalia.
Clowns know how to pack a bull because they all pack themselves in those little cars.
Yeah.
So they know
It's
how
the
to
same
pack
principle.
a bull.
Yeah.
Anyway, Andy, I got vaped.
Wow.
I got vaped. I got vaped.
Wow. Given some of the recent trends in your abductions, this one is pretty gentle.
I have to say
You
that
floated here
cloud,
on a cloud.
while it did taste like breast milk strawberry creme brulee, and undoubtedly, I probably got some sort of nicotine high, or it was very gentle. It was a gentle cloud, and it was fat. It was a nice vape rip, I have to say.
Yeah. I mean, so that's good. I mean, it's probably messed up your health.
A little bit, but
whatever. Speaking of health.
Yeah.
How did I get here this week?
How did you? Oh, yeah. What about you?
Well, as you know, Art, but the listeners don't know, I am
Andy.
Yes, I am Andy.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, and the listeners don't know yet, that I go every year for a physical checkup with my general practitioner.
Do you really?
My doctor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I do.
Good for you.
I do it once a year.
Okay.
For a physical, just a physical.
Just a physical.
Just a physical. Come on and get physical.
Physical.
So I had my annual physical.
Okay.
And I went to the doctor's office, and it's pretty routine stuff.
They do the knee test. They check your heart.
I haven't even been to see the doctor yet.
Oh, okay.
So I check in.
Play with your nipples.
Right.
Your doctor does that
at
too?
the front desk. Yeah,
Oh.
they ask you to tweak your nipples. Just
The receptionist. Okay,
to see
good.
how your blood
I just
flow.
want to make sure you're going to a
reputable
doctor.
Yeah. So I check in at the front desk.
Sure.
And they tell me it'll be a few minutes. They give me one of those HIPAA forms to fill out.
HIPAA forms, yeah.
Right, where you draw a picture of a hippo.
Yep.
From memory.
Mm.
And I am sitting there working on that, and I finish. It looks pretty good. I chose to go with a male hippo marking its territory, which, for those in the know, the hippo sprays dung out of its butthole and then spins its tail around like a helicopter to
naturally
splash around. So I was drawing that, and when I finished, they hadn't called my name yet. So I figure, you know what? I will do. I will make the best use of the doctor's office waiting room.
Yeah. I'm
going to read a magazine. When do you ever get to read a magazine these
Not anymore.
days?
They're being phased out.
Yeah. So, this doctor's office has like a coffee table in the middle of the room, and there's like stacks of Sports Illustrated and Better Homes and Garden and
hopefully
Highlights
the swimsuit
magazine.
edition
Yeah,
of Home and Garden.
Yeah, only the swimsuit edition of Better Homes and Garden.
Yeah.
And these go back 13 years. So this is a substantial stack of,
hell yeah.
of magazines. And I'm trying to decide what I want to read. I'm thinking, you know what? I would really like to read about the pre-All-Star Major League Baseball season from 2006. So
what
I'm
a year.
digging through the stack of Sports Illustrateds looking for that. And wouldn't you know it, the whole dang stack of magazines collapses on top of me.
Wow. So
There's
you're picking them off the...
I'm like flipping through. The magazines
Gotcha.
are above my head.
Yeah.
So I've got my hands in the air and I'm like thumbing through,
Oh, boy.
looking for the...
Oh, boy.
And there's a magazine avalanche, and I get covered in magazines. Magalanche? Okay.
magazine.
Listeners, let us know what you think. On the usage there. Anyway, there's a magazine avalanche, and I am covered in magazines.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, well, I feel like a freaking dope.
Yeah, I know.
Wouldn't
Your
you know
cousin
it?
of Ruckus.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I'm going to have to pick up these. And I try to get up, and I'm like pinned underneath the magazines.
Jeez.
And, you know, it's dark. It's hard to see what's happening. And so I shift around a little bit.
Yeah.
And it feels like the magazines envelop me.
Oh, no.
Like magazines slide underneath my body. As
oh,
I
you're getting
twist.
paper cuts.
Yeah, I'm getting tiny cuts all over me. I'm starting to
Oh.
get lightheaded from the blood loss.
The ink.
Yeah, the ink, the aroma of the ink is like clouding my judgment.
I see where this is going.
So I just start spinning and spinning and spinning like a broken washing machine. And eventually I become aware that I'm like levitating. And I've left the doctor's office. I see sunlight poking through the magazines.
Oh, my God.
And it's at that moment that I hear the familiar grunting sounds
Oh.
of Mr. Bunker
What?
as he struggles to carry me. The whole stack of magazines was Mr. Bunker.
Oh, wow.
So this giant magazine yeti, which that's the only way I can describe his costume, with me as like a pregnant
It's like a ghillie suit
made of magazines.
made of magazines.
But he looks like he's pregnant because I'm like curled up in the belly part of the suit.
You're like a kangaroo. You're a baby roo.
Right.
For our Australian
Right.
listeners.
And so, you know, I'm bleeding, high on ink, and he waddles all the way back to the bunker with me.
Jeez.
And then like gives birth to me
Ah.
in, you know,
So he
in the
laid
bunker.
on his back and put his feet up in stirrups and then anatomically correctly gave birth to you out of his magazine ghillie
well,
suit?
not anatomically correctly.
Oh, okay.
There was
So
not
you got some things wrong with the cervix.
There weren't like female sex organs built into the suit.
Okay.
But he like pushes me out of the belly
I got you.
and down through his legs.
Oh,
And I just come out with a thud onto the concrete bunker floor.
like a baby Bjorn.
And, you know, there's slime from my sweat,
Oh.
saliva, and blood.
So you look like
Just
Keanu Reeves in
dripping
The
out.
Matrix
Yes.
when he wakes
Yes.
up.
With
Oh,
more
God.
hair, though.
With more hair, though, yes.
Lots beautiful locks.
Yes, more hair.
And body hair. And yeah, that's how I
Now
got
breathe.
here.
Wow.
Pubes.
I'm sorry, Andy. Bunker needs to have you take that line again.
Pubes. Were you ready for me?
Yeah, we're ready. We got it. We're good. Sound speeds.
Pubes.
Is this live?
No.
Hey, listeners.
Not anymore.
Hey, we're doing it live, baby. We'll do it live.
We're live. We'll do it live.
We're gonna be live, live casting, live. Hey, let's get into the broadcast booth with your co-host.
Oh, you want me to do a Brett Musburger? You are looking live on the bunker.
on the bunk? You here with the?
Is that what you were going for?
I don't know what I'm
like
trying
a
to segue
sportscast
into the
thing?
script. I'm trying to segue into the script.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I
You
see
haven't
what you're
done
trying to
your.
do.
You haven't done.
You haven't done.
We'll get into it. Into the discussion. Let's get to the script, Danny.
okay.
These listeners are hungry for the whole enchilada.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Because we're here in the broadcast booth and we've got a big plate of whole enchilada for you listeners.
Ooh, listeners, do we ever? It's spicy. It's sweet. It's got acid. It's got heat.
Ooh. It is. Sports is fake.
Yay, yay, yay. Sports. It's fake.
Yes, Andy.
I'm going to describe you now as a wrestling dabbler.
Okay.
I'm not willing to describe you as a wrestling enthusiast, but I know you know a bit about the sport.
Fair. I'll say fair.
I'm reserving enthusiasts for the truly passionate.
The people who are still watching.
Right. So, Art, even though we both enjoy watching nude men grapple, right now, I'm specifically talking about professional wrestling.
That's right. Not Turkish mud wrestling.
Right. So, listeners, think WWE, not the Olympics. Art, question for you. Who is your favorite wrestler and why? If you can't pick one, maybe just say a couple you like.
Andy, let me stop you right there. Easy, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Done.
Why?
Because he, not only was he one of the greatest technical wrestlers, people always overlook how good he was at technical wrestling, Andy. Before he was Stone Cold Steve Austin, after he was stunning I think he was stunning Steve Williams when he was part of the Hollywood Blondes. Then when he moved into WWE, they didn't know what to do with him. So he became the ringmaster. And he was this dude who had just this stone, it's hard to describe him without using his name, but he had this just blank face and he was the perfect wrestler. He was I forget who he belonged to someone. He was somebody's protection. He was he had a manager who would be you can't beat my ringmaster or something, who would cut all his promos for him. And Stone Cold was silent. But once they transitioned him into this new character of Stone Cold, and he started cutting his own promos, not only was he one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time, greatest promos ever. I mean, comedic, just dramatic. I mean, off the cuff stuff, the stuff that Stone Cold did. He fucking initiated the whole Attitude Era. He fucking some of the greatest stunts of all time with WWE have all been Stone Cold. Very, very few wrestlers can you just play 1 second of his theme song, The Glass Shattering, and instantly the crowd will pop so fucking hard, harder than they pop for some of the biggest matches that they have nowadays. When Stone Cold comes back to wrestling, he gets the biggest pops of all time. Stone Cold is just number one by far. Also, his name happens to have part of my name.
Right.
But it's just everything just worked perfectly for him.
Yeah, Art's real name is Austin.
But I just loved him. So the attitude, he was every loser fans, and just in general, everyone who ever wanted to flip off their boss identified with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Anyone who ever felt like they couldn't stand up to the big guys loved Stone Cold Steve Austin. He just was all attitude.
All right, Stone Cold Steve Austin, a clear number one for you.
Clear number one, easy for me.
And
you want to talk about my top five? There's some. I mean, I'm gonna have Taker's up there, HBK's up there.
Yeah, sure.
Where do I put Bret the Hitman Hart? I don't know.
Okay, but Stone Cold's your clear number one,
and we're just talking, modern era,
right? All right, But what about the matches? Any favorite matches?
Oh, easily when Stone Cold's bouts with The Rock are some of the greatest of all time, because Stone Cold was king for a while during that Attitude Era. I mean, I think undeniably. But then The Rock showed up, and The Rock, he just hit the ground running. He kind of started, I think, as a heel. He was this macho charisma guy who was he was part of Vince McMahon's thing, and Vince was evil because he was the big business, and Stone Cold was was everybody's fan favorite. And then they kind of The Rock he was just good. I mean, The Rock, his dad was a WWE wrestler. The Rock just fucking had it. He had the build. He had the charisma. He was great at promos. He had great fucking lines. I mean, can you smell what The Rock is cooking? And he always talk about pussy as cherry pie. That was a great one. That fucking eyebrow that he had, Brahma Bull. I mean, all that shit, He was Mr. Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then they just sort of transitioned the two, and those battles at WrestleMania 17 and 19 were, I mean, some of the best. You know, Austin won at WrestleMania 17, but then in 19 is when they kind of, Austin kind of gave up the reins. Austin's run was kind of ending. He had that neck injury from fucking Owen Hart, who kind of ruined Stone Cold's career by messing up that pile driver that ended up shattering multiple, you know, it just broke his neck. He was almost paralyzed from the neck down. I mean, fucking insane. But those matches between them, some of the greatest I've ever seen, Andy.
Okay.
Big Stone Cold fan.
Thank you. I get that.
Okay.
Art.
And I'm a big fan of who we're about to talk about.
Art, another question for you.
Both of them.
Art.
Yeah.
Where were you? Specifically on April 5th, 2009.
What an Alan Jackson reference.
Did you happen to be in Houston at NRG Stadium?
Wow.
Because, Art, listeners, on that date, that location hosted WrestleMania 25, the premier annual event produced by World Wrestling Entertainment, the USA's premier professional wrestling outfit. Art.
Yeah.
Did you know that some people consider the greatest match in professional wrestling history to be the WrestleMania 25 matchup between The Undertaker and Mr. WrestleMania himself, Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid?
It's a great match.
Well, they do, Art.
Okay.
Picture it. The Undertaker is, at this point, 16-0 in victories at WrestleMania. He's undoubtedly one of the biggest in popularity and in sheer size.
Yeah, he's like almost 7 feet tall.
Yeah, he's like almost 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Wrestlers of all time. He's facing Shawn Michaels, another very popular wrestler who went from villain to fan favorite back into a heel turn. To open the match, born-again Christian Shawn Michaels, dressed in white, descends from the ceiling. The Undertaker, meanwhile, enters the ring amid his customary black attire, lightning strikes, and funeral bells. Now, Art, I'm just a sexy boy, but this sure seems like a matchup between heaven and hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're telling me.
Now, in the match, The Undertaker is driven to near madness like a forgetful ATM user, trying pin after pin, only to see the Heartbreak Kid break free and continue the match. Finally, Shawn Michaels launches off the turnbuckle, only to be caught midair and upside down by The Undertaker, who promptly executes a tombstone piledriver and pins HBK for good. Undertaker moves to 17-0 at WrestleMania, and Mr. WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels, notches another match for the ages.
Woo! Yeah! What a match, baby! Hey, can I just say one thing about that match?
Sure.
I rewatched it as part of the research, and at one point, Shawn Michaels is outside the ring, like on the ground. You know, he's he's hurt, quote
Right.
unquote. Undertaker is inside the ring, runs against the opposite ropes, and then jumps out of the ring, flips himself in the air. Meanwhile, 7 feet tall man, 300 pounds, jumps out of the ring, turns himself, barely almost lands on his neck because he doesn't almost complete the turn to try and do like a backflip, like land his back on Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels moves out of the way and he ends up landing on
The referee,
someone else.
The referee is there, and Shawn Michaels shoves the referee out of the way, and then the Undertaker flies into a cameraman.
That's right, a cameraman. But like,
I mean, is it? Yeah, a cameraman.
just the fact that he's almost 7 feet tall, 300 pounds, and he can jump and flip himself like that. Anyway,
Very-
awesome match. Not disputing that, Andy. One thing to note about that match, other than what I just said, and indeed, almost all professional wrestling, is that it's scripted. That's right. As thrilling as this match was, the outcome was already predetermined.
Mm-hmm.
The action, a display of complex choreography, executed expertly by these skilled performers. Though wrestlers possess exceptional physical gifts, thank you, Andy, and wrestlers like The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels are experts in their craft, Match results are all part of written storylines. Professional wrestlers, their injuries are real, are like hybrids between stuntmen and live theater actors.
Oh, hell yeah. It's like Sir Laurence Olivier riding a big old motorcycle or hog through a plate glass window in a hail of gunfire, baby.
Andy, that's exactly right. Thank you. Now you're getting it, you stupid idiot.
Oh.
Wow, I'm a heel. I'm a heel in this script.
You are a heel.
See, Andy and listeners, professional wrestlers live by the code known as kayfabe. Kayfabe is basically the portrayal of scripted events as being true. It's the way that professional wrestling makes its fiction seem like fact. Professional wrestling has basically always been a work of fiction. For decades, kayfabe was fiercely protected. Wrestlers were asked to maintain character even outside the ring. Scripted rivals were forbidden from traveling to matches together or even being seen in public with each other, all in the name of preserving the faux reality portrayed in the ring. This begs the question, though. If wrestling is so protective of kayfabe, how do we even know about it, Andy?
Wow, I am so glad you asked that question, Art. Listeners, just to prove that Art and I are on the up and up, let me rephrase that without the kayfabe. I'm so glad you read that question from the script that I wrote.
Whoa.
And the curtain is down. Essentially, Art, though, there was always speculation that professional wrestling was scripted. Despite the suspicions, folks in the wrestling business never acknowledged kayfabe until they had to. In 1989, Vince McMahon, owner of the WWE, testified before the New Jersey State Senate. McMahon was testifying to urge the senators to lift the athletic regulations to which pro wrestling was beholden at the time. In his testimony, McMahon admitted that wrestling was not competitive. The bill passed and sports entertainment was born. What this means, though, is that in order to maintain kayfabe, pro wrestling allowed itself to be subjected to regulations and taxes designed to apply to bona fide athletic contests, and did so for years. Wrestling was willing to bear expenses to attempt to convince the public that their product was a genuine competition. Is it possible that other sports are similar to pre-1989 pro wrestling, attempting to maintain airtight kayfabe, all the while scripting the on-field or on-court action?
Widespread scripting of action by any major athletic league has not been proven, but some things have come close. In 2015, 7 officials of the Fédération Internationale de Football Association. I got a lot of different accents
in that one.
It covers a wide range.
The true global sampling there.
Also known as FIFA, were arrested under charges of money laundering, fraud, and bribery. FIFA is the international governing body of soccer, or, as we like to call it, international football, aka footy. The charges stem from an investigation into collusion between officials of CONMEBOL. Right? What do you think? How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, CONMEBOL.
CONMEBOL and CONCACAF.
Yeah. CONCACAF.
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 CONCACAF
Is what I would say.
CONCACAF.
CONCACAF.
I like it more throaty.
Yeah.
I like a more throaty pronunciation. Which are international football organizations in the Americas and sports marketing executives influencing the issuance of marketing and media rights. There were also allegations that illegal payments were used to influence the host site selection process for the World Cup, the premier international football tournament. So while the FIFA situation doesn't directly point to FIFA or any other international football body scripting the action on the field, it does evidence that money can play a corrupting influence in sport. In this case, with some of the more administrative aspects, but where does the influence of money end? Isn't it possible that money could encourage malfeasance in sporting contests, Andy?
Yes, Art, and it has. Let me tell you a little tale about a sport known as basketball.
I've heard of it.
The American Professional League is known as the NBA, the National Basketball Association. The situation: NBA referee Tim Donaghy is hanging out at the country club with a high school friend named Jack Concannon. They're golfing buddies and frequently gamble together. Concannon's bookie is a guy named Peter Rhino Ruggieri, who also golfed with the guys. Donaghy and Concannon start betting on professional American football games together based on Rhino's system for picking games. Eventually, in 2003, Donaghy and Concannon start to bet on NBA games. In fact, they decide to bet on the games Donaghy is refereeing. A sports betting syndicate of which Rhino was a part was booking the bets for Jack Concannon. The betting syndicate, by the way, was run by a group of people who, like Rhino, all had animal nicknames, leading some to call them, not very creatively, the Animals.
Very cool.
Rhino noticed that Jack was betting larger amounts on certain NBA games. Rhino figured out that Concannon was betting bigger on little Tommy Donaghy's games and winning even bigger. The Animals started betting on Donaghy's games, but their syndicate broke up in 2004. Now on their own, at least one of the Animals continued to bet on Donaghy's games. That animal? James Baba Batista. And by the way, listeners, animal noise onomatopoeia nicknames count as animal nicknames, okay?
We are, do you know?
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, Baba Batista contacts a friend of Donaghy's in 2006 to set up a meeting. Baba was worried that the gambling world had become wise to the Donaghy scheme and that the nice thing they had could evaporate. Baba offered Donaghy to pick the games he refereed, and if Donaghy's pick covered the spread, Donaghy would get a sum of money for his services. In the meantime, FBI agents covering the Gambino crime family got a tip from one of their informants about how much money illegal wagers on Donaghy's games were making the mafia. By mid-2007, the scheme was known to the NBA, and Donaghy resigned in July of 2007. In 2008, Donaghy was sentenced to 15 months in prison for his part in the scheme. Prior to sentencing, Donaghy alleged malfeasance by other referees and indeed the NBA itself. Among other things, Donaghy claimed that Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals was fixed because the NBA wanted to add another game to the series. I know. A New York Post story that ran in July 2007 precluded any additional FBI investigation into Donaghy's claims, and post hoc investigations determined that Donaghy never fixed a game he officiated. Gamblers disagree, though, saying it was obvious that Donaghy was influencing the outcome of the games on which he had money.
Andy, the Tim Donaghy case is definitely interesting, but it is not even close to the OG betting scandal in pro sports. I am, of course, referring to my, breaking kayfabe here, beloved Chicago White Sox. We'll get into it.
It's complicated.
And the infamous 1919 Black Sox Scandal. For those not in the know, the Chicago White Sox are a professional baseball team in the US of A part of the Major League Baseball. The World Series is Major League Baseball's championship, pitting the champion of the sub-league, the American League, against the champ from the other sub-league, the National League. In the mid to late 1910s, the White Sox were one of the best baseball concerns going, Andy.
Yeah.
They won the 1917 World Series, but despite this fact, legendary White Sox owner Charles Comiskey, of which the park was named after,
yes,
for a while, was disliked by the team. Comiskey was thought to be underpaying his players, despite the fact that the White Sox had the largest team payroll in 1919. Keep this in mind, though, listeners. This was before the Baseball Players Union and collective bargaining. So underpaying players was institutionalized. Neat. Players didn't make much money, and without protections in place for their continued employment, it was easy for gamblers to find players willing to join a scheme for a nice payday. And I'm not talking about a peanut-covered caramel nougat candy bar that I don't like.
Oh, what?
I don't like them.
Payday is an amazing candy bar.
I haven't had one in a long time because I'm allergic to peanuts in some ways. We'll get into it.
Okay.
Chick Gandil was the brains of the operation and was responsible for recruiting the White Sox players who joined in the fix. The basic plan was that the players would conspire to lose games in the World Series and, after each successful loss, would receive a payment from the gamblers. Word got out to other gamblers that the series might be rigged, though, and a lot of action started going to the White Sox opponent, the Cincinnati Reds. This moved the line, making the whole scheme less profitable than planned. Payments didn't come to the White Sox players as expected. So, after Game 5, the conspirators changed the conspiracy in order to get back at the gamblers. The White Sox won the next 2 games of the series, inciting the gamblers to make threats against players and their families. Threats of violence, Andy, that is. Not threats of passion or kindness or lovemaking.
Threats of passion.
Yeah.
Oh, I swear I'm going to be so passionate about model airplane construction.
Threats of violence. The White Sox lost Game 8, which cost them the World Series. The players involved in the scheme did finally receive their money, anywhere from $5,000 to $35,000, which I imagine was quite a lot back then.
Decent sum. Well, Art, these are some nice historical examples, but what about modern day? How about the current ongoing National Football League season?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. If you don't know, listeners, the NFL is the Professional American Football League. What are we talking about here exactly? Well, of course, we're talking about Antonio Brown.
Mr. Big Podcast.
Is that what he calls himself?
Maybe now.
Okay. Antonio Brown was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2010 and quickly became a standout wide receiver for the team. Brown is a 7-time Pro Bowler, twice led the NFL in receptions and receiving yards, and led the league in touchdowns once. Despite this on-field success, the Steelers traded Brown in March of 2019 to the Oakland Raiders. After being fined by the Raiders for a number of infractions, Brown eventually demanded to be released from the Raiders after the team voided guaranteed money in his contract. The Raiders obliged and released him on September 7, 2019. Also on September 7, 2019, Reggie Bush, current sportscaster and former NFL player, tweeted that if the New England Patriots sign Brown, the whole NFL is rigged. Well, guess what happened? Later on September 7th, 2019, Antonio Brown signed a 1-year contract with the New England Patriots.
Oh!
So what's the big deal with the Patriots? Well, the New England Patriots are in the midst of perhaps the greatest dynasty ever in professional American football and maybe in all of American sport. Arguably. The team has won 6 Super Bowls since 2001. The Super Bowl, by the way, is the NFL's championship game. Basically, the Patriots are one of the NFL's most successful and powerful clubs. Also, they had an interest in trading for Brown when he was leaving Pittsburgh, but the Steelers did not want to trade him to a major rival like the Patriots. Additionally, it was revealed that Brown engaged a social media consultant to help him get out of his contract with the Raiders. But that's not all, folks. This story gets...
That's not all, folks.
But that's not all, folks. This story gets stranger still. Shortly after joining the Patriots, Brown's former personal trainer accused him of rape. Brown's former doctor also accused Brown of farting in his face multiple times and not paying his doctor bills. Brown has since been released from the Patriots and is, as of this recording, not currently on the roster of any NFL team.
Also, we weren't joking about the farting in his face. You can Google that. He did that.
Yeah.
Allegedly
he farted in that doctor's. And
it's not like a joke that we put in the script.
Right. It's not a joke. It's funny, but he's also accused of rape.
Well, yes, also that. Anyway, the Brown and Donaghy cases both have allegations of professional sports leagues scripting action on the court or field or in some way manipulating the outcomes of contests. Let's dive into the rationale put forth by those people who believe that professional sports are indeed rigged. These points are taken from the work of Brian Tuohy. Yeah, Tuohy, author of the books The Fix Is In and The Fix Is Still In, the sequel, respectively.
The Fix Is In too. The Fix Is Still In.
Yes. First, professional sports are actually businesses. Entertainment businesses, to be exact. Sports entertainment? Where have we heard that before? That's right, with professional wrestling. Tui suggests that the real business of all major sports is entertainment. And so leagues will strive to entertain their audience above all, even if it means making up storylines and compromising competitiveness. Wouldn't individual teams object to losing games just to satisfy a league-created storyline? Why would teams work so hard over the course of the year and just to participate in such a scheme, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tui suggests that it's because the four major sporting leagues in the USA, the NFL, the MLB, and the NBA, and the National Hockey League, or NHL, all have drafts and revenue sharing, with some possessing antitrust law exemptions. As the FIFA scandal illustrates, media rights for major sporting events are quite lucrative. These major leagues all have deals in place where revenue generated from media sources is distributed amongst some or all of the teams in the league. The same is true with ticket sales. Essentially, all teams in the league benefit when the league does well. So why not humble your team for the betterment of the league? Legally speaking, there aren't any laws that prohibit a sports league from predetermining its contests. There are laws on the books that were enacted in the wake of the 1950s quiz show scandal. Andy?
Oh,
That was a hot one.
spicy.
Where it was revealed that some television game shows were rigged. The quiz show laws really only govern the rigging of intellectual contests, not physical ones. So arguably, sports are excluded from these rules. Tui further cites as evidence that any ticket you purchase to see a sporting event is only a license to see that event. The ticket in no way guarantees a fair contest or anything similar. Basically, as consumers, professional sports leagues can script the action on one hand and lie to us about the authenticity on the other. And we lack any real legal recourse.
So what's the evidence that this is actually happening? Truthfully, it's mostly speculation. Outside of the instances we've shared here and other situations where people see incongruities, there's a lack of hard evidence. According to former gambler and current author of the book, No Gray Areas, Joe Gagliano, sports are hard to fix from the outside. Most team sports are challenging because of the number of players involved. Incentives in the most prominent sports are different now as well, reducing the effectiveness of traditional gambling techniques. One sport that Gagliano sees as a prime target for corruption is UFC. Gagliano says that fighters are paid poorly and are likely to have short professional careers. If they have the chance to make a big score while they can, they might be inclined to take it. One thing is for sure, with the recent reduction in regulation around sports betting in the USA, the major sports leagues could soon find themselves awash in gambling money, possibly influencing the outcomes of entire seasons' worth of action. Maybe, though, gambling was never the problem all along. Maybe the real villains in this case are the sports leagues who provide the athletic products we love to consume. Just maybe all the thrilling moments and tremendous heartbreaks were just manufactured to keep us all tuned in.
Mr. Bunker's Conspiracy Time podcast will be right back after this brief message.
Hey, listeners, this is Andy here from the podcast. I'm here with my co-host, your co-host, Art.
Hey, listeners, how you doing out there?
Folks, this is not an ad. This is a thank you. Thank you for being a listener.
We appreciate everyone who listens to the show, and it means a lot to us because, we work hard to provide you a great product.
And if you're loving it, hey, share it with your friends. Maybe they'll love it too.
Thanks, listeners.
We love you.
Back to the show. Hey, welcome back, listeners. That was our research into the idea that sports is fake. Sports are fake. Sports are fake. They aren't real. No, let's get this out of the way, Andy, real quick.
Yeah.
I want to do two things right at the top. One,
Okay.
I want to say this. Whether sports are rigged or not, the injuries are real. The athletes who are putting their bodies on line for this competition, the work and talent is a dumb word that people use to mask the immense hard work that athletes. Now, some people like LeBron, their bodies are just designed to be athletes. Like LeBron could play any sport and he'd be naturally, he's gifted in ways that we are not. But it's also the immense hard work that he puts in every single fucking day to be the best.
Yes.
But if he was a fighter, if he was a UFC fighter, he'd be an amazing UFC fighter. His whole body is just designed to compete athletically. If he was a football player, he could play pretty much any position besides O-line. And maybe defensive tackle, but anyway, I just want to get that out of the way. So we're not here to shit on athletes.
And hey, let's say this too. Yes, professional wrestling is scripted.
Yeah.
Always has been, always will be.
Yeah.
Calling it fake is wrong.
Yeah.
Because these wrestlers that are on professional stages are, like you said, incredible athletes. They work exceptionally hard to get where they are.
Injuries are so real.
Injuries are real, and these wrestlers are incredible performers and excellent choreographers,
improvisers,
yeah.
Andy, thank you for saying that, Andy. Finally, you're saying something that isn't bullshit. Finally, something that's coming out of your mouth is truthful and awesome and real and passionate. I love it. Thank you, Andy.
I think that it's like saying wrestling is fake.
God, I fucking hated those kids when I was little.
It's not that it's fake.
Were you real? Were you one of those kids? Because I loved wrestling from I don't know, 8 or 9 years old till I was 14 or 15 when I kind of stopped watching it. But there was always that one kid who's like, well, actually, it's fake. You know it's fake, right? It's all fake. And I would be like, it's not fake. I would have to sit there and defend it. Were you one of those kids, Andy? Answer me truthfully.
When I was a kid, I liked wrestling. And
were you one of those fucking kids?
I was skeptical about the reality of it, but I wasn't one of these people. I don't recall.
Well, actually,
going, it's fake though.
Yeah.
But at some point, I got to this point where I accepted that it wasn't real, and I'll admit that hindered that stopped my interest in it.
Yeah,
at the time,
I kind of stopped watching it,
but more on that to come.
Yeah, around early high school because but I think really what started happening was the WWE started changing. A lot of the wrestlers that I loved and grew up with kind of left, and so I kind of just fell out in love with the personality, and it was just over. The Attitude Era was over, and the early 2000s era was over. But and I didn't have any friends who liked it. Really, I didn't have anyone to share in it with. So I kind of lost interest in it. But
you've had a wrestling renaissance of sorts.
No, I don't watch it still. It's probably it's probably worse now than people say that it's independent wrestling leagues are better than the WWE now. The WWE is most people I think agree that Vince McMahon has lost touch, regardless of his shady business practices. but that he's lost touch with what the fans kind of want.
Boy, hard to believe that a multi-billionaire can't relate to fans
Yeah.
of the sport.
I mean, but even before he was a multi-billionaire, he would just eat up all the local competition. That's how the WWE became the WWE.
Yeah.
Anyway, evidenced by the fact that Undertaker, one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time throughout generations.
Yeah.
The dude has been in the wrestling world since...
He started wrestling in the 80s.
Yeah, and he's still going. He's still going.
Yeah.
But he
seems like a bad idea.
Well, listen. One of his things that people loved about him was that he's undefeated at WrestleMania. Never lost. Then the WWE, when they finally decide to break his streak, which they could have just let him retire with. No. Who do they make him break it up to? Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
The WWE forced hero boy that nobody wants.
Yeah.
Nobody likes Roman Reigns. Nobody wanted Roman Reigns to win. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Lost touch.
I watched or became aware of something in professional wrestling a few years ago after not paying attention at all for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was the wrestler Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
And I saw this guy in the ring and I was like, I don't get it. What am I supposed to like about him? And it was just like everything I read about him was like, oh, he's just an average guy.
That was the whole thing, is he's just the underdog.
I was like, this doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I like the cartooniness.
I think I do too.
The Attitude Era, the WWE. Like it's over the top, but wrestling's over the top.
Yeah, you had it was a little bit racier back then. Like there's certain things that they did back then that you probably couldn't do. Like they got rid of all the diva stuff.
Yeah.
And I think most people agree most people like the idea that, that there are female actual wrestlers and athletes, and it wasn't just bra and panty matches, which, when I was 12, those were cool to watch. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed watching those quite a bit. I'm not going to sit here and lie to the listeners that I didn't enjoy every time Stacy Keibler was on the air. I liked it a lot. I was 12. I was 13 or 14, it was awesome. Tori Wilson, Stable, Trish Stratus. You want me to keep naming them? Lita.
I just remember Chyna.
Chyna was great. Chyna was one of the she was a wrestler rather than, she was still a diva, but she was also in that wrestling element.
Yeah.
Same with Trish Stratus. Anyway, Lita too was very much a wrestler, but they got rid of some of that stuff, some of the other stuff. I don't know if you still see characters like Val Venus or Perry Saturn, or The Godfather.
Venus the Penis.
Some of the, there's a little person who was a wrestler and he played a leprechaun character or something.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. It's distasteful.
But I agree with you. Some of the just cartoonish, the big personality, John Cena is a really good example of somebody who is just amazing improviser, hilarious guy, athletically gifted, all the above. Just he has the whole package.
You said it, The Rock. The Rock's
The Rock.
He was destined to be a superstar.
Yeah, not a very good actor, but he still makes it work in these action movies.
He has a niche, and he does it.
Could argue that he's better than Stone Cold. I don't know. In some ways,
I'm not going to argue that.
I'm not going to argue it either. He's Stone Cold's number one, baby. But anyway, that's wrestling.
Yeah, wrestling is scripted, but let's not diminish in any way the level of effort that wrestlers put in and the amount that they suffer.
Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. The names are endless, unfortunately, of wrestlers who get addicted to drugs because it's a hard fucking life.
Yeah.
And or they have massive CTE injuries and just do terrible things.
It's tough. I mean, because it's it's like a lot of the times they don't have adequate time to heal their bodies.
No, they have none.
It's like with
They're
other,
obviously on steroids.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Hulk Hogan shoot steroids into his ass. I've seen it, and you can see it too. It was on a DVD.
Every time you close your eyes.
I've seen it happen. I've seen Hulk Hogan shoot steroids in his ass.
I mean, I don't think there's any
Someone
doubt.
pulled down his bright yellow trunks and his flabby, tanned, like fucking old football looking ass cheeks, meaty, chunky ass cheeks, and they put a little needle right in his ass. And I watched it happen.
Listeners, look out for the director's cut of this episode where there's uninterrupted 5 minutes of art describing Hulk Hogan's ass.
I mean, it looked like the leather on my nice boots. You know what I'm saying? Tanned, baby. That hide, but wrinkly. Worn. Hulk Hogan lost inches of his height. Hulk Hogan used to be like 6'6", 6'7", or something. Maybe I'm getting those numbers wrong. He's like 6'3" now because of years of doing his signature leg drop move and just landing on his fucking ass. He has compressed his spine.
Yeah.
To the point where it is, he can't have it, it's, what's the word for like, it can't be repaired?
It's irreparable?
Irreparable. You know what? It's just part of the fucking thing, man. Like
the WrestleMania 25 match, Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. Now, like The Undertaker, I'll tell you what. One thing about The Undertaker when I was a kid that made me feel like this is all not real.
Yeah,
is probably the Tombstone pile driver.
I have a note about this too
because and I have to say that
I have a note about this too.
We should be thankful for The Undertaker that his finishing move is something that must be semi-safe for the other wrestler, where he's big enough that he can hold you above the ground.
That's right.
But also drop to his knees.
Right.
Where it looks like you hit the ground, but it's just his knees.
Yeah. For people who don't know, the Tombstone pile driver is essentially you are picking up your opponent and flipping them to the point where their head is in your crotch.
Right.
And you're
69ing
you're literally 69ing
right.
while standing up and holding them, and you kind of either fall on your ass or in the Undertaker's move, you fall to your knees and you have the impression that you are driving their head straight into the ground. You're obviously not. Your ass cheeks or your knees are cushioning the blow. And if done correctly, no one gets hurt. Well, the person doing the move has to land on their ass, which undoubtedly hurts a lot. But that is why Stone Cold Steve Austin had his neck injured, because Owen Hart didn't do the pile driver correctly. Stone Cold's head was actually sticking out below his hamstrings, and he actually landed on his head and, obviously was injured, to the point where it pretty much shortened his career.
Right.
He had to have neck surgery and he couldn't wrestle as much anymore.
There's very real risks.
All the moves in WWE are completely faked, and if they were ever done in real life, the people would be dead.
But hey, I'll say this. So Undertaker does the Tombstone pile driver a couple times on Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels, meanwhile, is like Undertaker is like punching Shawn Michaels, and it's the wrestling punch where you're punching and you also stomp your foot to make a noise.
Yeah. Well, they occasionally do connect.
Yeah, sure, but they're good at it.
Yeah, and that's why they're the best improvisers on the planet. Yeah. They're better than us.
Yeah, well,
because not only are they improvising with their,
admittedly,
yeah. I mean, not hard to pass that bar.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're actually performing in front of people.
They do their act for real people, and people actually enjoy it. Anyway, Shawn Michaels is slapping Undertaker's chest.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see at the end, Undertaker's pecs are like red and swollen.
Oh, yeah.
From Shawn Michaels slapping him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, That had to hurt.
Oh yeah,
That hurt.
adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I
Yeah.
mean, they're in front of like 50,000 people.
Yeah. I mean, you're amped up for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, they're actually taking the blows. I mean,
Oh yeah.
And when you're when Undertaker's flying through the air, we talked about it earlier. There's no way that didn't hurt. There's no way to make that comfortable.
You can roll into it like certain high flying wrestlers like Rod Van Dam or whatever, like Rey Mysterio. They're really good at like trying to land in a way that they don't get hurt, but you're still landing on the fucking mat.
Physics means that it hurts.
You're like 200 pounds of meat,
Right.
and you're fucking jumping into the. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna hurt no matter what.
You can transfer some of the force, but you're still going to absorb some of it eventually. You're coming to a
Shawn
stop.
Michaels' finishing move is the sweet chin music, in which
Yeah.
he stands at the turnbuckle and stamps his foot really hard, and then does a super kick straight to the jaw of the opponent. Now, obviously, he's probably done it so much that he's good at making it miss, but you gotta think that a couple of those connected.
At some point, he actually kicked somebody in the cheek.
Yeah, and knocked out a couple teeth or something, for sure.
I mean, obviously, with him and the Undertaker, they're true pros.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't look like at any point does anything really connect because they're so skilled. But nevertheless, there's the risk of injury is high.
One of the things that I wrote about the pile driver move, it is funny that you bring that up, Andy, is that this idea that if wrestling were real, like you pick someone up to pile drive them, they're not wriggling at all. They're not trying to get out of the pile driver move, because if they were to do that, they would actually get injured. They know that there's no risk of injury.
You just have to let it happen.
Yeah, you just have to trust your scene partner, essentially, Undertaker, that he's going to land on his knees and not drive your skull into the fucking ground.
Art, quick question for you about professional wrestling.
Yeah.
What percentage of a match is like fighting action, and what percentage is two huge adult men laying on the ground panting? Because I think it's about 35-65.
You're not wrong, Andy. You're not wrong. I mean, like, if those fucking matches are going like 20, 30 minutes, like...
That WrestleMania match is like almost a half an hour.
Yeah, you're fucking
it's not
tired.
Yeah. I mean, I know that they're doing a lot and it's got to be exhausting, but it's like, you can tell that their athletic gifts, they're not exhausted like I would be.
No.
Like, they can still go.
Oh, yeah.
And they just pop up out of nowhere, but it's like they'll lay there and like they look like they're so dazed.
Oh, yeah.
For like minutes on end of just and it's like
they're communicating too. The camera cuts are really good, and I think you could probably see it more live. But they communicate with the ref. They're communicating with each other all the time.
Right.
Like they'll be like, "Hey man, like don't fucking like watch that shit. You're fucking like Stone Cold Steve." If you listen to Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast, he'll talk about like matches he had where he was like, someone was really giving him the business, or it's like they have all these code words like pops and heat and stuff. Like, you're generating heat, you're getting the crowd real amped up. That match, both Shawn Michaels does like 2 or 3 sweet chin musics, and Undertaker does like 2 or 3 choke slams, another one of his finishing moves,
Right.
and like 2 pile drivers. Like, they're communicating that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that is pre-choreographed. I know that wrestlers practice certain sequences of moves. Like, you'll see this move a lot. 2 wrestlers in the center of the ring. They always start the match with like grappling. Maybe they'll throw a couple of slaps and punches. Then they'll start doing something where they'll whip each other into the ropes or the turnbuckles. And there are sequences that they always follow where you whip your opponent in the turnbuckle, the opponent hits the ropes, runs back. You try and go for like a clothesline. They duck. They hit the other side. Then you hip toss them, roll over. You practice these sequences.
Right.
And they're like little games in improv where it's just like, oh, okay, I'm going to do the clothesline. He knows to duck. Like, don't actually take this hit.
Yeah.
But then they also know that like they can feel the audience. They know what the audience is feeling. So I think for that match, they know that obviously it's like, okay, Shawn's going to lose. Undertaker's going to win.
but they want to make it interesting.
They need to hit the pop. They feel the audience. They know when the apex hits, and then they know to like get the pin, end it.
The audience in that one,
The audience,
they show a lot of signs and stuff. People were rooting for Shawn Michaels to break the streak.
people love Shawn Michaels.
Yeah,
He's just lovable.
yeah.
Is one of the greatest. Whether he was heel when he was like, or he was part of so many different great stables and cliques. I mean, him and
Yeah.
Triple H had so many great matches, and
He was part of the Clique.
he was part of the clique, and he was part of the Montreal Screwjob. He was
Yeah.
part of the Madison Square Garden Curtain Close,
Curtain
which,
call.
we can talk about that, which kind of was the biggest kayfabe break in the history of WWE.
Right. For the listeners, essentially, now I'll not be able to remember everybody that was involved, but there were some wrestlers who were leaving the
Kevin
WWE,
Nash and Bret Hart, I think, were leaving for WCW.
WCW,
And
which
Triple H and Shawn Michaels were staying,
and they had
I
this.
think.
It was a tag team, right?
Yeah.
in Madison Square Garden,
Yeah, they were
And-
supposed to be enemies in
Yeah.
the kayfabe.
and at the end of the match, they all come in the center of the ring and give each other hugs.
So sweet.
Yeah, because they were friends.
Real life, they were like
Well,
best friends.
I mean, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, not always.
Not always.
They had a real legitimate beef
Sure.
off outside the ring, but
But in this instance, it's like coworkers who you've like
right.
you just like that locker room camaraderie.
Right.
Like, they were bros and they were all hugging, and people were like, "What the fuck? You guys are supposed to be enemies.
Yeah.
What is going on? This is
Yeah.
not right." There you go. Kayfabe
Yeah.
broken. They got in trouble for that. Vince was not happy.
And there's even earlier incidences of things like this, like the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan got arrested in the 80s.
Yeah,
in
Iron
New
Sheik had
York
a lot of drug problems.
because they were doing coke and drinking in a car.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to be enemies. So
Yikes.
I mean, that one didn't like have the same, I don't think, lasting impact that the Madison Square Garden curtain call did.
Yeah. Well, because Iron Sheik was always a heel, and he was always
Right.
comfortable playing the heel.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, that's wrestling. Andy, should we maybe we should talk a little bit about our sports allegiances, where listeners might want to know where we fall on our favorite sports teams, so that we can maybe talk about some controversies with them.
All right. So
Would you like to go first?
yeah, let me start. Collegiately, I went to Ohio State.
The
so
Ohio State.
I am a Buckeye through
How come
and
you never
through.
say the? Aren't you supposed to say the?
I don't. Who cares?
They're trademarking it.
They can't. They got denied. Who cares? I don't care. The
Wow.
it's people who make such a big deal about it, like the Ohio State. I mean, I get why other people do non-Ohio State.
Ohio
people.
State alumni advancement team. Don't expect a check anytime soon. No, seriously.
I don't have any money.
Yeah.
Stop calling me. No. Here's the thing. The fellow Buckeyes that I know that make such a big deal about it being are usually insufferable. And that's a sign that you're an obnoxious ass.
Whoa. God damn.
Just let it be. Who cares?
fucking roasting them.
And other
like Buckeyes.
other people are right to mock us for it. And
Wow.
I accept your mock art. I take it on.
I'm not doing it mockingly. I thought I'm supposed to be doing it.
I thought I'm supposed to be doing it. So collegiately, Ohio State all the way, baby.
I have no love for either team.
You have no love for anything.
Yeah. I'm soulless.
And professionally, let's just go with like major four sports. Professional football, the NFL. I root for the Cleveland Browns. Again, I am an
I'm so sorry.
Ohioan. Let's see what happens the rest of the season. Big game with the Rams coming up. Anyway, which the outcome will already have been known at the time that you're hearing this, listeners. So,
Yeah.
we'll see. Let's see. So Cleveland Browns, for professional baseball, Major League Baseball. I don't follow it that closely, but the Cleveland Indians were my childhood team, and so if I'm rooting for anybody, it's the Indians. And when they were in the World Series with the Cubs, I was believe land all the way. The NBA, I really don't follow that closely.
You
to
don't.
be honest,
You're
I
not
don't.
an NBA guy.
I don't. I always.
You love collegiate basketball, but
I don't know what it is about the NBA that
I mean, the
just never
Cavs
got
have been
into it.
historically terrible
And I
until LeBron got there.
yeah, and I'm no LeBron fan, and I was never a Cavs fan growing up, and I don't know, I never went to a professional basketball game. I've never been to a professional basketball game.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I don't know. I don't follow that much. If I had to pick a team, the Suns.
Ugh. Why would you pick the Suns?
Because I like the Browns, and the Suns are like.
Do
the
you like
Browns.
pain?
Yeah.
The Suns are probably. I'd be hard pressed to say that they're almost worse than the Browns in some ways. I mean, one of the worst franchises in fucking the NBA. Like, terrible ownership, just
You're
terrible.
Right, Art. You're right, Art. It's a bad choice. I'm gonna go with the Wizards. No, I don't like.
Seattle Supersonics.
No, I'm gonna go with the Magic.
Magic. I'll give them. They had a couple good runs.
Oh
but
yeah, because Michael Jordan.
nobody can stop the Bulls, baby. And then NHL. Neither of us give a shit about hockey.
I don't follow it that closely, admittedly. But
Does Ohio even have a team?
yeah, the Columbus Blue Jackets. They actually
Never heard of that.
they made the playoffs for the first time.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
although I do think that the Las Vegas Knights are pretty cool.
Vegas. They're cool because they're an
But-
expansion team that just got created and they were good.
Conspiracy? Anybody?
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about it. For
All right,
me,
go for you.
I am obviously
You hate collegiate sports.
Yeah, I didn't go anywhere that had any strong collegiate sports. I don't care for them. I think you have to have either you grow up in an area where they're really prominent because you don't have a professional team. I grew up in Chicago. I always had excellent professional teams to root for. So there was never a need for me to care for college sports. So
Wow, can't believe you didn't latch on to the Ron Zook era Fighting Illini of Illinois.
I remember that with Deron Williams at point, right? I believe.
Well,
Darren Williams?
Ron Zook was the football coach.
Oh, we're not talking basketball?
No, you're thinking of Bruce Weber.
Oh, I thought we were
Luther
talking-
Head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
that-
made a deep run into the Sweet 16.
They won it all,
March
didn't they?
Madness. No, I don't think they did.
I think they did.
No. I don't
That
think
team, I think that won it all. They lost at Ohio State. I didn't go to that game, but I was on campus at the time.
Yeah, probably partying, fucking smoking a big doobie, drinking a fifth. Andy casually ignored that, listeners.
I don't have to say anything.
While Andy's looking that up, I am a NFL. I am a Bears fan. Basketball, I'm obviously a huge Chicago Bulls fan. And we'll talk a little bit about some controversy there. I don't follow baseball. I don't really care for the Sox. I guess I'm a Sox fan if I have to be. My family is Sox fans.
If you have to be.
I kind of despise the Chicago Cubs, and I look forward to a day where they're terrible again.
Yeah, Art,
Sorry.
you're right. They lost.
Yeah, they lost.
Was that North Carolina?
Sure.
I didn't dig that far in. Anyway,
I look forward to a day where the Cubs return to being terrible because Cubs fans ruin my commute on the train every day. They make it just unbearable to take the trains coming into the city, just swarming it. And I just despise that stupid fucking stadium
what you
in the middle
really
of my commute.
what you really want, Art, is you don't the Cubs being bad doesn't impact the regular season.
No.
But what you're actually hoping for is that they're bad so that they miss the postseason.
Yes. I don't want them to be in the postseason, so I have to deal with them into October or whenever the MLB postseason
Well, I've
is
got
these
news for
days.
you. Their playoff chances are on life support.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they bad?
No, but they're like in a deathlock with the Brewers for the second wild card spot.
Oh, really? I mean, they won.
I think-
They won. They broke the curse. It's done. It's over. Okay. I don't think anybody cares anymore.
Yeah, now it's the Indians.
Yeah. And then I don't watch NHL either, but the Blackhawks, it's cool that they had they were fucking I used to be able to go to Blackhawks games for like they would pay you to come. They were so fucking bad. And
They're
then-
back there now.
They're back there now, but they were a bit of a dynasty for a little while.
It was a dynasty.
So that's where Andy and I fall in the sports spectrum.
So get at us with our hot takes on our rooting interests.
Hot takes. Now, so Andy, maybe we could talk a little bit about some controversies amongst our favorite teams here. I think one of the biggest was Chicago native and favorite Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
Chicago-born, Chicago guy ends up playing for the Bulls. The Bulls with the number 1 pick. Now, I need to look up the exact numbers real quick here.
Exact numbers of what? Derrick Rose's injuries? Because I don't think that can be calculated.
Fuck you. He's coming back, okay?
They'll have to send away.
He worked hard. The Bulls overcame a 1.7% chance to win the top pick in the 2008 NBA draft. Now, the NBA, for listeners who are unaware, has a lottery system based on your record, and you kind of draw from a almost like a like you draw numbered balls from a lotto pool to determine your draft chance, and the various percentages of based on your record kind of determines what percentage you could get the top pick. So the Bulls only had a 1.7% chance. And now everybody wanted Derrick Rose was one of the top prospects coming out of college that year. He was an amazingly explosive point guard, ball handler, scorer, defender. All over the field, the dude was just unbelievable. And the Bulls got it with 1.7%. Now, you could say, like, is there some collusion there? You know, those are pretty fucking low odds. You really don't see that shit kind of happen very often. You know?
Yeah. And don't forget that somebody took Derrick Rose's SAT for him.
That's true. He got into a lot of trouble years later because which, you know, I don't give a shit. Let's just be honest, Andy. The NCAA is full of bullshit. You agree? Bullshit rules.
Art, I want to come out and agree with you as strongly as possible in that the NCAA.
Wow. I
sucks.
love how you open up things by no one knows where you're going to go with them. Art, I want to come out and say, and it's like, where's he going with this? What's he going to say? You're just a little politician, aren't you? When are you going to run for office, Andy?
Trust me. Everything that I've done in my entire adult life precludes me from running for office.
Well, Andy, I don't think that's true anymore.
Maybe you're right. Art, the NCAA sucks a big old fat dong.
Does.
Art, the NCAA is what's absolutely wrong with a lot of athletics in this country. And I think that it's such a good thing that the NBA, for example, has put money into developmental leagues.
Yeah, G leagues.
And made it so that if you don't want to go to college,
leagues.
Why should you have to go there?
Yeah.
I don't think that colleges and universities should be developmental leagues for professional sports. And football is the worst of all.
Oh, football's the worst.
You cannot get into the NFL unless you go to college, basically.
For 4 years.
It's almost, I know there are some international players who obviously didn't go to college necessarily that have made it, but it's so rare. I mean, we're talking, these are like, tiny percentage.
Yeah.
Basically, the pipeline is through colleges and universities in the United States.
It's a big load of bullshit. Back in the day, you know, when these leagues were first started, it made a little bit more sense. It was like you kind of played football and then you were also a student getting a really good education, but it's so different now. The money is so different.
And the expectations.
The game has changed immensely. These players are 3 times as big. Just the injuries in football alone, you could snap your fucking leg in half in football and your whole career's done. And then it's like, okay, cool.
Aside from that,
I'm glad I made no money.
I heard recently, Art, that modern science basically feels that human beings shouldn't play tackle football until they're at least 20 years old because your brain is continuing to grow and develop. And so
they say your brain isn't fully done growing until 25, and mine never developed.
yeah, mine got stunted. But I used to mainline coffee and cigarettes when I was in
coffee.
elementary school. But
I walked around my elementary school. I was known as the IV kid. I had an IV drip of nicotine and coffee, just all together.
I was 2 feet tall and I weighed 40 pounds.
I was so fucking cool. Everybody wanted to sign my full body cast because my bones were so brittle.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with them. They just would break at someone looking at them.
I have glass bones. That's why I can never play in the NFL.
I am like a bird. I have hollow bones. And
I regurgitate food from my younglings. Regurgitate food from my younglings. Baby, I got very more.
Baby, if you come near my nest, I'm gonna fly inside your hair and peck and scratch your eyes.
The biggest thing that the NCAA does that's bullshit and is just starting to possibly change with some new legislation out there in California is that NCAA players do not own their own likeness and their own name. Meanwhile, the stadiums, the organizations, the schools, blah, blah, are profiting millions and billions of dollars off of these kids' names and likenesses. Now, you know what? I think these kids deserve to own their own names and likeness. I think at the bare minimum, fucking pay them a student worker wage. These kids will get in trouble if somebody gives them food or money so that they can feed themselves. It's bullshit.
And they're expected to do so much work on their own time.
Give them $10 an hour where you pay the kid at the bookstore to sell the kids jerseys.
Yeah, they can't take a job like working in the bookstore.
Give them $10 an hour so they can buy McDonald's when they're fucking hungry because they had 2-a-day practices and playing for your bullshit tournaments.
And listeners, I hear you.
While also studying bullshit classes that they don't care about.
Right. And here's one thing. Get away from it with colleges altogether. Because either you have to do this, you have to say this is just an ingrained part of the collegiate experience in athletics. And you have to start saying, let's have a professional football major. Let's have a professional basketball major.
Where they teach you how to manage your money, how to be smart about sports science.
Maybe it's classes on marketing and social media.
Yeah.
About how to manage
how to delete your old tweets where you use gay, like gay slurs and racial slurs and other things,
protecting your image. I mean, get them into law classes.
Yeah.
So that they can learn about intellectual property and all the rights that they have with respect to their own person, their name, their likeness. I mean, there's so many things that you could do, but I'm not really in favor of that. To me, okay, look, Ohio State is a football school all the way. They try,
touchdown.
I think people should embrace basketball more than they do there, but it just
and their volleyball team,
the great men's volleyball team, back-to-back champions. The thing is, and the great women's hockey team, embrace them too. Embrace all the athletes because they work hard. But here's the thing: I think that
except for badminton, fuck you, badminton.
Fuck you, badminton. Just play tennis. Pick a sport. Oh, it gets me fired up.
We know what you're up to, naming your ball the shuttlecock.
Yeah,
you're just a big troll, aren't you, badminton?
Freaking joke. But here's the thing. I think they should I would gladly take a more inept Ohio State football team if it meant that the people that were playing on the football team were legitimate students trying to earn a degree who are also just playing football while they're there.
Yeah.
I don't feel like a lot of people are going to share that viewpoint.
That's a strong view.
I mean, to me, it shouldn't be the development league.
Yeah.
Because there's this corrupting influence of money that pervades the sport. I mean, what, Nick Saban makes like $8 million a year?
Oh yeah, it's insane.
Like, it's nuts.
And it's like he can't do anything to help his players who are like, now mind you, the superstars, they're fine. Most of them are usually fine. I'm talking like the kids who ride the bench who are like, you're not going to the NFL. I'm sorry. The kids who aren't going to make it.
Those kids have to work just as hard.
Yeah.
But no boosters are coming up to them
right.
and palming them $100 bills.
Right.
I mean, and let's be honest, it happens. And
yeah.
I don't even care about it.
No, we don't care.
I don't care about the kids. They should get paid. Then that goes away. Give them enough money to live and give them
some money.
Give them some pay that's commensurate with their status.
Doesn't have to be the big checks they're making in the NFL, but like you take a third of that paycheck and you're like to an 18-year-old kid who's putting his body on the line or every night.
Make some sort of instrument to like provide for their future based on their
put it in a trust fund.
Yeah,
you commit to Oregon
insurance policy.
I don't know why I picked Oregon. You commit to Oregon for 4 years.
Pac-12 after dark.
Art 12 after park. I don't know. Like you commit because sometimes these superstar kids. Most notably, you have Tate. What's his last name?
Tathan Martell, former Ohio State quarterback.
Moving because he's not a good enough quarterback to actually play for any of these big name schools.
Ooh, Art.
He's not. He doesn't have the skills. He's 5'10", and he's not a good thrower, and he should play a different position. He should play a different position. He should be a cornerback. He's got speed. He's got legs. Play a different position. You're not a quarterback.
He should put on a little muscle and become a running back.
Or that. You'd be a good like Christian McCaffrey style running back. He
could be like a Percy Harvin type.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody wants to be fucking quarterback. These quarterbacks, they move around to try and go to different schools. What if a school said, "All right, you commit to us for 4 years. We're going to outline this like trust fund for you. We'll put some money away so that injury, some sort of injury thing where it's like, hey." You get injured, you can continue your degree. We're not just going to drop you. That's the thing. You get injured and you can't play football. You're done.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Like, you're done.
Yeah.
You don't get to go to school there anymore.
Although, how about this? Just let high school graduates go to the NFL and work in a developmental league.
Or that. I see that is a long ways away because I think the colleges are going to fight that. Because they're going to be like, I'm not going to get any good. But then that might also force the colleges to make better situations, more appealing situations to these students. Hey, don't go to the G League. Come play for the Tar Heels. 4 years here or 2 years here. That's the problem is that basketball is already one and done. It's such a joke. It's like you're going to go to college for a year. Just let them go to a G League, make a couple bones, and then go to the NBA like they were already going to do.
Right.
They're doing that so that they can make money.
Yeah,
none of these guys are really ready. Very rarely are NBA players ready for the speed of the NBA right out of the draft.
Yeah.
Certain ones are, but like the defense is so much different. And offenses are so much faster. It's Oh yeah,
there has to be an in between. But why does it have to be?
It's even more different.
Why does it have to be
football?
Colleges?
I think in the NBA you can have the Kobes and LeBrons and the Kwame Browns. Great pick. You see that shit a lot. Greg Oden. There's a good example.
Thank you.
Sad.
Mike Conley.
Mike Conley's great, though. He was ready. Some really into high IQ players are able to adjust really quickly, but very rarely are rookies ready to adjust to. They don't make as but I think in the NFL it's even worse because it's like the NFL is just like everybody who was the best player at their college is like playing for the NFL and they're bigger and stronger. Because they're giving you steroids.
But let's be real about this though. The NCAA contributes nothing to the value of the sport.
Right.
It's a body created by university presidents in order to further
line pockets.
Yeah, further their cash flows from athletics, and it's all such a joke. And
big joke. Some might say it's funnier than this podcast. Andy, we've kind of gone off the rails a little bit. We've been ranting about the NCAA
we hate
for a while.
the NCAA too much to not go. We
need to talk a little bit about some of the conspiracies.
Is
here.
the NCAA a conspiracy? Are they scripting things? I don't really think so.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this: because I think that it's on the cusp of a conspiracy, because ultimately it's about the money for the NCAA.
Yeah.
And they shroud it in this guise of amateurism and protecting the integrity of the sport.
Student athlete.
And here's where I want to jump into the rest of the discussion: is the integrity of the sport.
What do you mean?
That's what the NCAA is allegedly protecting: is the integrity of a pure and wholesome athletic contest. Two teams of hardened athletes striving to both defeat the other.
Sure.
In this pure, beautiful expression of competition. And I think that this overarching thing of sports being rigged is that's what it's about. Is people have a reaction to it because they feel like, oh, it's tainting this pure competitive beauty that we expect when we watch sport. I think that's why people find it. This is why.
Do they are people more invested in the storylines of it all?
Well, stick with me.
Okay.
A Jets fan sued the NFL in relation to the Patriots Spygate incident, where the Patriots were filming Jets practices in contravention of established NFL rules. The Jets fan sued the NFL in court, claiming that he paid money to watch an up-and-up contest, and he wasn't delivered that. And that's why TUI argues that your ticket, that court ruling basically said your ticket only entitles you to go to the event.
Yeah.
A seat at the event. It doesn't guarantee the quality of the competition.
I think that's fair, though. Because you think in the court, it's like you could have gone and seen the Thursday night opening 100-year anniversary of the NFL Bears versus Packers game that was an absolute fucking dud and heart-wrenching, hair-pulling loss for the Bears. The whole fucking 85 Bears team there watching them, all these famous people watching this fucking team struggle, and then goddamn stupid piece of shit motherfucker Aaron Rodgers has to throw those fucking, which he only fucking threw because they had their backup secondaries in for some fucking reason, which I don't still understand. But that game was boring as fuck. It was like 3-0. Like it wasn't exciting, you know. You're not guaranteed to see some battle.
Art, before we went on the air, I told you that I had a hot take.
Oh, I thought you said a hot cake.
No, a hot take.
Oh, because I thought you line your pants with pancakes.
I've got well, that's a separate matter.
Oh, okay.
I have what I think is going to be, what I thought was going to be a Trinidad scorpion pepper of a take, but I think that you're going to actually find this rather mild.
Okay, so we've gone from Trinidad scorpion down to maybe like a Serrano or a Poblano even?
I mean, maybe we're talking just a banana pepper here.
Oh my goodness.
As we were researching this and I'm thinking about professional wrestling, and I've had this thought before, it occurs to me that people know that professional wrestling is scripted.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really matter. What people get invested in is the storylines and the characters.
Yeah.
And the you talked about it with Stone Cold, a very technically gifted wrestler. People enjoy watching him display his skill.
Sure.
In the ring.
Yeah.
If sports are rigged, I don't really care.
Wow.
I don't care about it being a legitimate contest.
Wow.
Now, ask me that if it impacted my rooting interest, if The Browns had to lose a bunch of games to satisfy some NFL narrative, maybe I'd feel different. But
yeah, did you like that they had to go 0-16? To not win a single game, to join the ranks of the 1976 Bucks and the 2008 Detroit Lions? The Lions were arguably worse than the Browns.
Here's the thing.
And possibly this year's Miami Dolphins?
As a Browns fan, you're the Dolphins, a new level. But they're tanking.
Right.
Which
they're doing it on purpose.
Discuss. Yeah, but here's the thing. As a Browns fan, you get used to ineptitude. I mean, things seemed like they would be good. Trust me, I was taking that with a grain of salt.
115 to 0-16. The team was bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Detroit Lions, who actually had competent players and still did not win a game.
Yeah.
That's even worse. I'm sorry, Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and
you deserve better.
Stuff like that. I mean, that probably makes it more believable that it's not scripted. But because why not just get
Andy? I don't know, man. I don't think I agree with you. If I found out it was all rigged, I don't think I would be as into it.
I think that I still would. I don't think I care.
I want to win.
I would you give up? Okay, you talked about the Bears-Packers, that Thursday night game that kicked off the NFL season this year. What if that was actually a good game, but the Bears still lost and you knew it was scripted? Would you have enjoyed it?
Yeah, maybe.
Instead of a trash game where the Bears just failed to
the defense stopped Aaron Rodgers for pretty much 90% of the game. Okay?
Yeah. And the offense was so inept.
Well, both offenses were inept.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out. Before you go on a little bit of you get a little bit too off the rails.
I'm just saying, if it was a good game.
Yeah. Like a high scoring game, defensive stops, interceptions, sacks.
Would you have enjoyed it more? Even if you knew it was scripted.
Maybe. I don't know.
See?
The Bears still lose. Like, I don't like that. I would have been pissed about it.
Sure.
Just like it would have been about a TV show. Like, why are the Bears still losing? They're supposed to win now. The Bears have been losing for a long time, and now they're good. Now they're potential championship contenders, and they're supposed to win. Aaron Rodgers is a fussy little baby who argues with his coach, and he throws little tantrums, and he grows a dumb mustache, and he's a bad actor, and he's a piece of shit, and his family doesn't like him.
Whoa.
And
that's true.
And nobody likes him. Nobody likes him. He's not liked in the league.
Right.
People don't like Aaron Rodgers. He's known for being a diva little baby. And
true.
He shouldn't be able to win anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know, Andy. Maybe I'm getting so fired up about just the storyline aspect of it. Maybe you're right.
You're focused way more on Aaron Rodgers, the character, than you are on Aaron Rodgers, the competitor.
I did the same thing with LeBron. LeBron torched my Bulls when we were so goddamn close to winning. That team deserved to win the 2010 Bulls. The hard work, the grit, the Thibodeau era Bulls. You had Joakim Noah. You had Corey Brewer. You had Carlos Boozer, Taj Gibson. You had, I think it was Rip was on that team, or is that after? You had Derrick Rose, obviously.
Yeah.
You had Kyle Korver, I think, coming off the bench, or maybe not. It's hard to remember sometimes. It was like almost a decade ago, which is weird. That team deserved to win, but fucking LeBron had to be there with his stupid fucking Heat. That evil team, the team that seemed like it was colluded against, where LeBron reached out to Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and they all got together and formed a super team, and they wore black. I mean, the fuck, man? They wore black. Like Darth Vader.
How about LeBron and the
Cavs coming back against Golden State?
Yeah.
That 3-1 finals.
3-1 deficit.
Now, I loved that. I hate Golden State. I despise them.
I know you do.
Steph Curry, suck a dick. Draymond Green, suck a bigger one. You're a piece of shit. And you play dirty. I don't like you.
So
I'm calling you out.
What if the NBA scripted that?
I like Klay Thompson.
You don't care.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're convincing me.
The Golden State is a heel to you.
Maybe you're convincing me.
Golden State's a heel to you. You didn't care that they lost, even if it was scripted.
No, I'm surprised to hear you say this because you normally don't care for the storyline of sports. Or maybe you're just putting on airs. Maybe you're just playing your little devil's advocate character. You put on your little devil horns, and you put on your little devil pasties, and you walk around that little tail thong, and you put on you got your little pitchfork out, and you go, tee-hee-hee. But Art, the stats.
Okay, well,
You always do that.
No, but here's the thing. I think that sports is far too overanalyzed.
True.
Sports media is obnoxious.
True.
And
you can see that with people hating on Trubisky.
And I think that a lot of the stuff that annoys me is the stuff that the media just kind of makes up. Mm-hmm. And it's like, just let's stick to
the
what
Stephen A. Smiths, the Colin Cowherds, the Skip Baylesses, the
it's a good list.
who else is there?
Doug Gottlieb's.
Yeah. Nick Friedel, the worst Bulls writer of all time. Glad he's fucking gone. Good riddance, you piece of shit.
But here's my thing
Fuck.
is that we get invested in these teams, we get invested in the characters.
Yeah, I've been loving them since I was a little kid. It's like, how can you not?
And we spend all this time talking about it as if it's this earth like super serious thing in sports media.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's put it back to its proper perspective. At the end of the day, it is entertainment.
Yeah.
We watch it to be entertained. Sure, it annoys us sometimes, and maybe we get frustrated with our team's performance when they can't ever beat Clemson for any reason. But you know what?
Oh, geez.
Or when I broke a remote in 2009. Because why can't you just beat Texas?
I don't know what this is in reference to, but I don't know.
Anyway, my point is, you get, sure, it's aggravating, but at the end of the day, it's like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's pointless. It's just sports. It's entertainment. It's no different than like, oh, if you went to a movie, that movie didn't turn out how I thought it was going to turn out.
They wrote Spider-Man incorrectly. He's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Superman.
Exactly. It's like, Spider-Man didn't live up to my expectations.
Yeah.
It's like, do we want to be those people that
Kind of.
like putting that on to, well, you do. I don't. At some point it's like, sports is entertainment. We watch it to be entertained. And
You bring up a good point, Andy.
And so I almost feel like if I found out that true competition for a lot of it is just a myth, I don't think that I would care that much. I don't think it would diminish my enjoyment. It would take something away, but at the end of the day, professional wrestling doesn't reveal its storylines.
True.
So the outcome is still unknown.
The injuries are still real.
Right.
Now let's
still have terrific athletes playing a game that we enjoy watching and doing it at a very high level.
Let's get into some discussion that's going to lead to our actual verdicts here, though, Andy. Let's say hypothetically, after this podcast is released, it gets so popular, and we thank you, the listeners, for making it that popular.
Listeners, you are tremendous.
It's all on you guys. It's not on us. You know,
we've done our part. Time for you to do some work here. Okay.
Okay. It gets revealed the Wednesday after this episode's released that sports is fake.
The verdicts were all faked on this podcast.
Do you really think like in the NFL that they could compromise any of those players? How hard? We talked about the NCAA. We talked about all that. How hard these motherfuckers work to get where they're at. And then some asshole comes along and says, hey, a little extra quiche.
No,
why don't you miss that tackle? For a little extra quiche, why don't you throw a pick, Mr. Tom Brady?
Especially in the big money leagues, athletes are already making enough money.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that Gagliano points out.
We can't factor out the Mad Money leagues owned by Jim Cramer.
Yeah. Or the XFL owned by Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Jim Cramer, noted Eagles fan.
Bye.
Fly, Eagles fly. No, I think that it would be hard to incentivize professional football players, especially because of the amount of money that's involved.
They're putting their bodies on the line in way I mean,
Right.
and they're already being competent. Like, Melvin Gordon is holding out
Yeah.
until he gets paid what he wants to get paid. If you're a superstar in the league, you usually get the money that you want and feel like you deserve.
I think that in the NFL, in a practical sense, I agree with you. I think it's impractical to say that the NFL is fixing games.
Maybe a guy like Joe Flacco. For those of you who don't know, Joe Flacco, former Super Bowl MVP caliber quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens.
Now there's a Trinidad Scorpion Pepper take.
Oh, yeah. Now, kind of on the tail end of his career, playing for the Broncos, just kind of, playing out his career. He can still play. He's nowhere near where he may or may not have ever been, if he ever was.
I think
I mean,
to
he got to the Super Bowl.
Paraphrase Denny Green, Joe Flacco is who we thought he was.
They are who they thought we were, and we let him off the hook. Great clip.
I watched that game live.
Oh, did you?
I think that was a Monday Night Football matchup between the Cardinals and the Bears.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched it live, and so I watched that press conference live, and I was like, well, this is nuts. I don't know how old I was. I was probably a teenager then.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was touching myself.
I think you could to the conference.
Yeah. Nothing got teenage me hotter than an enraged Dennis Green.
Well, you had lots of, you must have had lots of spank bank material then.
You know, he used to coach at Michigan State.
Surprised you like him. Maybe you like jerking off to seeing somebody that you hate do
I didn't
poorly.
hate him. I got nothing against him.
Oh, got nothing against Michigan State? Okay. Anyway.
I got some, but
what do you
not a
think
lot.
about that? What do you think about, like, players in the tail end of their career? You think you could get them in the pocketbooks?
I mean, here's the thing about football is so many people have to be on board.
Yeah.
I think that collusion in the NFL makes sense between owners.
Yeah.
But I don't think it makes sense among the players because it would be too many players and at some point ego comes into it. The owners are the ones who really benefit from revenue sharing.
Yeah.
And I think and they benefit from the draft. They're the ones that are benefiting, not the players. The players don't benefit from the draft.
Right. Larry Fitzgerald doesn't benefit from being stuck on the Cardinals his whole career.
No, the players don't benefit from it. And
Calvin Johnson didn't deserve to be stuck on the Detroit Lions his whole career.
But I think where there could be collusion is if owners, in the way that contracts get structured or in the way that people move about the league. Obviously, the commissioner has. We mentioned Antonio Brown. He's not exempt from playing right now, despite the fact that he has these horrific allegations levied against him.
Right, like farting in a doctor's face.
Of farting and of rape.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's bad. Like,
not only
I don't know
rape allegations, but proven factual evidence that he doxed a sexual assault accuser's kids to his posse and threatened, like, intimidated her.
Yeah, he retaliated by
via
sending
text,
threatening texts with her children's
the
pictures.
fucking idiot couldn't even use a goddamn burner phone. I mean, what a dumb diva dummy.
But
wasted just completely.
In that situation, it's like we know that the NFL has a lot of inconsistencies in the way it handles discipline for its players.
There's been a lot of players that have had terrible sexual assault claims. Ray Lewis,
murder, yeah.
And the way that the league handles it, sometimes it's just kind of like, oh Christ.
I think there was also somebody on the Ravens who splashed his ex-wife with bleach in a dispute, and this was like in sight of their children.
Jesus Christ.
And I think if I remember right, I think that the penalty he suffered was de minimis. It was maybe he sat out for a game or something.
I mean, look at like half the players, a bunch of Kansas City Chief players. You got, Ravens historically have always been a mean. Vontaze Burfict is still in the league. That dude has targeted like He's been targeting people since college, and he's still fucking playing.
One of the funny things about this whole Antonio Brown in AB when he was in Oakland is that he and Mike Mayock get into this.
Mike Mayock, the
match.
general manager of the Oakland Raiders, for those who don't know.
You might remember him from NFL Network draft coverage. Mike Mayock, the GM of the Raiders, they get into a shouting match at practice, and Vontaze Burfict is one of the guys who comes over and like breaks them up.
Yeah.
If Vontaze Burfict is your voice of reason, you might be Antonio Brown. That's right, folks. This is me, Jeff Foxworthy. But I think that's where the collusion exists, is in the way players move between teams and how their deals get structured and stuff. And
you're seeing this a lot in the NBA now with these super teams that are being built. Famously, LeBron goes to the Lakers, and suddenly there's literally a meme about it, is that LeBron's going to gut your whole damn team and pick it all for you.
That's LeBron.
That's LeBron. Did it on the Cavs, too. He doesn't like you, you're out of there.
Yeah.
Jordan did it, too.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like...
Jordan's still doing it.
Yeah.
He's
Poorly.
the owner now.
Poorly. Very poorly. He's not good.
You hear that, Mike?
Mike, just go own steakhouses.
Mike, hit the golf course and do some gambling.
Yeah. Well, maybe not.
Oh, no, that would be bad.
Is this part of the reason why he didn't play that one year? Would have won another championship for sure. The Bulls would have won every single NBA championship of the 90s if Jordan had played that year.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Yeah.
And Chicago Bulls are a great dynasty. I'm just saying. Anyway, so, he goes over there. He gets all these other players to join him. Meanwhile, a few years back, Chris Paul wanted to join the Lakers, and the NBA vetoed it. The NBA at the time owned Chris Paul's team of the Hornets.
That's right.
That he was on.
That's right.
Didn't allow him to go where he wanted to go.
That's right.
I mean, that's kind of some obvious, I don't know.
That's collusion.
You can say that maybe times have changed. The NBA kind of changed a little bit. But when LeBron's able to go to Miami and bring along Bosh and Wade, and they're able to structure their contracts where they're like, oh, yeah, we'll take less money. Or now LeBron goes over to the Lakers and they get an aging Dwight Howard, but more importantly, they get Anthony Davis and Paul George.
Yeah.
The Golden State Warriors. I mean, you could sit there and say, well, they drafted well and they just blah, 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 blah. It's like they had 5 fucking superstars starting for that team.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, Curry, Draymond, Klay Thompson, all stars.
Yeah.
Starting for that team. Andre Iguodala coming off the goddamn bench.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Sure, they drafted well, but it's the other stuff around the draft picks.
And what about the small market teams that never get any good coverage and don't get good players to come to them?
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to play for a small market team.
Yeah.
Gordon Hayward leaves Utah. Can't blame him. Played his whole fucking rookie career there, and most of later in his career, they weren't doing anything to help him because they can't attract the big names.
Yeah, those are the types of teams that get really supported by revenue sharing, but they often are just toiling in obscurity.
Yeah, and what do you think about, it's like how many Hollywood celebrities and high stakes do people have in the Lakers being good?
Yeah.
They don't want to see those Lakers from the past couple years.
Yeah.
So they got rid of fucking what's his name? Ball?
Yeah.
What's his first name? LaMelo? No, that's his brother.
Lonzo
Ball. Ousted those fucking guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
I see it happening more in the NBA than in the NFL for sure. The number one sport I see collusion, UFC.
Sure.
UFC, it's mano-a-mano. You have one fighter against another fighter.
Yeah.
Boxing has had a history. I mean, that is a tale as old as time that
boxing, yeah.
That, hey, throw the fight and we'll give you extra money.
Boxing's historically crooked.
A dude is taking a punch to the face. You can't sit there and say that didn't knock him out.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to tell?
Yeah, exactly.
Just take the punch.
Yeah.
Take the fall. I see it happening in the UFC. Dana White has had a lot of controversy over the years with how he structures contracts,
UFC
plays favoritism.
UFC makes a lot of money.
Makes a ton of fucking money.
Fighters don't make that much.
They make way more in spawns. As much as I hate Conor McGregor, as much as I enjoy seeing him get his ass beat by Khalid and Nate Diaz, and just as much as I see him finally being exposed for the loudmouth piece of shit that he is, I mean, listen, I'll tell you what, he's a great promoter. He gets people involved in the entertainment of the sport. You know what? I could see there being some collusion between, fighters don't pick their own matches either. That's another thing. It's like your business is literally picking who you go up against. They can kind of like gauge who's going to win and who's not. They know who's a better fighter.
Right.
I see it happening in the UFC a lot more. I like watching a fight.
Yeah, I guess you do. I didn't realize you were such a
It's hard to watch them because they're all
UFC
pay-per-view.
aficionado.
No, I dabble in it. I think one of the pieces of research that you mentioned is from metro.us.
Yeah.
They're kind of talking to a guy named Gagliano. They're talking to Gagliano, right?
You're right.
And he's kind of talking about the UFC and mixed martial arts. For those who don't know, I mean, UFC is Ultimate Fighting Championship. It's a major, but not the only. There's like Bellator and a couple other leagues, but it is a major MMA mixed martial arts fighting league where you can use multiple different fighting styles. It's not like boxing. He brings up a guy named Anderson Silva.
Right.
Anderson Silva, one of my favorite fighters. A little cocky, but he had reason to be. Pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the UFC for years. Famously, one of the things that people bring up about Anderson Silva is that the UFC pitted him against a fighter that was nowhere near his caliber. You'd be hard-pressed to find one that was.
Right.
And Anderson Silva famously let his guard down, meaning he brought his fists down to his sides and let the guy just throw punches at him. And he was easily ducking out of these punches like they were nothing. In true, like, Muhammad Ali style, where it was just like, you can't fucking touch me. Like, this is bullshit. It's so stupid that you would even put me up against this kind of fighter. Is there some kind of collusion there?
Yeah.
Why is the UFC putting up, Gagliano kind of mentions, he says, you look at him, this is a quote from him, a couple of fights ago against Chris Weidman, Silva got $2.5 million. That's a great payday for us, but when you're paying training fees, you're paying taxes, traveling, injury, the injuries you suffer, all that stuff. I mean, just your quality of life, the CTE you're going to suffer.
Right.
The broken bones.
And
you don't realize how much time you've got in your career. It could end at any moment. You could stop making any money. You see the revenue that the UFC is bringing in, I get pretty bitter.
I want to point out something too. Gagliano mentions it's like the pot of a big fight is something like $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao.
Another big fight.
A big fight. That purse was $300 million. They each took home over $100 million from that.
Right.
Comparatively.
And it was a shitty fight. Most Floyd Mayweather fights are.
Those are very far away from each other. Floyd Mayweather's $180 million versus Anderson Silva's $2.5 million.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. That's a disparity. That's where there's opportunity if you're trying to find somebody who's disenfranchised and willing to collude with a gambler.
Gagliano says, if you're a kid like Anderson Silva, grows up in Brazil, has a bunch of friends who send your buddies to England or to Australia with a duffel bag with $500,000, you're a 10-1 favorite. You get caught with a punch, or you get caught in a chokehold, your $500,000 suddenly turns into $5 million cash offshore. You're not even paying taxes on it.
Yeah.
The rematch in UFC is probably worth more money than the first fight you had.
Right.
Because people are like, oh my God, Anderson Silva got beat by this no-name. Happens all the time with stupid Conor McGregor. He talks all this shit. Such a loudmouth little piece of shit shrimp. Has no ground game. No ground game. I'm sorry. Great striker. Zero ground game. Got his ass beat. Cheats constantly. Putting his toes in the fucking cage. Doing all this shit. All these strikes he's not supposed to do. Refs don't call it. It's a bunch of bullshit. I really don't like him. I like fighters that are like, I kind of like the homegrown hero, the guy who does everything right. Not necessarily, but I like fighters who are more honorable. You know, they treat this like it's a real fucking fight, and and sure, they play it up for entertainment's sake, but
You like faces more than heels.
I think I like faces more than heels sometimes, yeah. What do you think about that, Andy? What do you think about the UFC being...
I totally agree. I think, and because your career is likely to be so short because of the just brutal amount of punishment your body takes and the complete lack of support from the UFC for its employees.
Yeah.
It means that
But on the one hand, it's like you're literally punching each other in the head.
Right. You kind of know what you're getting into.
Yeah. I mean,
but
you know what you're getting into, bro.
at the same time, I definitely believe that this is true with the NFL too.
Yeah.
Where athletes are being asked to put their bodies on the line. The league owes them in some sense.
Yeah.
The league owes them some protection for the rest of their lives because they give up their bodies for our entertainment.
It's
and
depressing.
The league hoards this cash instead of very simply taking a portion of it and to provide for health care.
Yeah.
For people who I mean, in some cases give up the rest of their lives.
You can watch, there's a great documentary called ESPN's 30 for 30 Broke. Might still be on Netflix, might not, but so many professional athletes go completely broke.
Yeah.
After
they don't have any idea how to manage the money.
They have no idea how to manage the money. No one tells them, no one helps them. They spend it all. Grifters from out their life come through and say like, "Hey buddy, remember me from hometown, you know? I'm struggling, bro. You got that. I saw you get that big paycheck. You know, how about you buy me a car and a house?"
Yeah.
It's like, what do? You want to be the hometown hero. And then the injuries you're paying for years of, I mean, look at Gronkowski.
Yeah.
He's making more off of his weed deals and other sponsorships than he ever made playing.
Sure.
And he's got a massive amount of injuries. Look at all the weight he lost.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not right,
What is it? Earl Campbell can't even walk unassisted now?
Yeah.
It's
incredible that guys like Jim Brown are still so cognizant and like able to move. I mean, truly, some people are like designed to play football.
Yeah.
Like Bo Jackson, if he didn't get injured, I have no doubt in my mind that dude would have destroyed both the NFL and the MLB and then been fine. Like he's just built differently.
Yeah, he's on another level.
Yeah. In fact, that's why he got injured, because he was so strong, because he was so fast. When he got tackled around the ankles, his inertia was moving so fast that he pulled his own hip out of his socket. Like, that's why he got injured, because if he was weighed less and wasn't running as hard as he was, he would have been fine.
Yeah.
It's just nuts.
Yeah. He's like LeBron, where it's a rare specimen. It's this crazy mix of genetics that's
just not fair, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, why not us? Like, why were we born with our
I'm
bodies?
also a crazy mix of genetics.
Yeah, you're a freak, but in
a
different sense.
A negative sense.
Opposite side of the spectrum.
Right. If anything, negative athletic ability.
I didn't really start developing any athletic ability till...
Never. And folks...
late college. I started working out more in college, and I suddenly became more coordinated. Anyway.
Speaking of USC, Art took a punch.
UFC.
What did I say?
USC.
Oh, sorry.
We're not talking about film schools, Andy.
Sorry. I was just thinking about...
Or Trojans.
I was just thinking about Trojans.
Trojan condoms.
Yes.
You love them.
You know them.
You can't get enough of that Fire and Ice condom. You love putting a feeling of Ben Gay on your dick. Don't you love that?
I usually skip, because I'm sterile, I don't need to wear the condom. So I usually just skip and just smear my undercarriage in Ben Gay.
Fire and Ice, that's Andy.
Fire and Ice, a song of ice and fire.
I did take a punch, Andy, that's true.
And that spurred him to hone his body into...
Nope, incorrect.
the weapon that it is today.
I started working out a month before I got punched in the face.
Well, you should have worked harder in that month.
Listeners, I'll probably tell this story again one day, but for those of you who don't know this, Andy knows this because he knows me. I was riding in the train. I got punched in the face by,
a serial offender.
A serial offender, punched a lot of people, harassed a lot of people on the train, had been arrested some 200 times and was just on the train, and he punched me in the face for no apparent reason. I took a clock.
Reasons that are his own.
Right in the eyebrow was where he got me, right in the eyebrow.
Yeah.
I had been working out a month before that, Andy, so you're incorrect. But I will agree, it did fuel me to gain more weight, put on more weight so that I don't look as much like you could pick on me. But sometimes when you're matched up against a dude like Bo Jackson or a LeBron, there's nothing either of us could ever do. LeBron would have his way with you.
Yeah. If I was LeBron, LeBron's like the wolf from our werewolves episode.
Which, by the way, we put out a Twitter poll. The wolf won.
Yeah.
I think it was 70-30. People said a wolf would kick our ass.
I just want to address it here. I was very overconfident, I think, in saying that I would have any chance against a wolf. And the same would be true with LeBron.
That's, Andy, I mean, wolves range in size, but I think in general we were a little overzealous with our opinions on whether or not a wolf would kick our ass. Right. I think if you simulated it, you'd win a few of those.
Yeah.
I don't agree. I agree. You're a big fella, So if you got on top of that wolf, it would suffocate. I'm serious.
Filled its face with my flab.
Now, an adult gray wolf that is 6 feet long? I don't think so, but
a child wolf.
A wolf pup?
Yeah.
No, other not all wolves are the size of adult gray wolves.
Enfeebled elder wolves.
A sickly runt wolf that nobody likes.
Abandoned by the pack.
The wolf that goes, well, actually.
Now that wolf.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm coming after you.
You're kicking that wolf's ass. Okay, Andy. We've apologized to the wolf population, to all of our werewolf listeners and wolf listeners. We're sorry.
A long-needed apology.
Let's get to our verdicts. And you can break it down a little bit if you want. I don't think we need to cover every sports league. It's obvious that we're bigger NFL, NBA fans than we are of all the other ones. I'm
gonna bucket it in this way.
Yeah.
Do I think that there's massive collusion going on in sports leagues to dictate the action on the field and produce what the league considers more favorable outcomes in its champions and all that stuff? I really don't think so.
Okay.
I'm going to say that it's plausible minus. I think that's fair. I don't know. I'm not totally convinced. Most of the evidence is speculative. I do think that there's a possibility there. I just don't feel that it's super plausible for all the reasons we talked about with number of players and personal pride at stake and all that stuff. What do I think about gambling? Is it plausible that players are on the take with gamblers?
Yeah.
For the most part, no, but I do think that it's a real possibility. And with the changes in the laws around sports betting in this country, I think that what most economists find is that making sports betting legal doesn't improve the flow of funds in the sense that it reduces gambling's influence. If anything, it increases gambling's influence. So it's sometimes people make that argument that, if it's legal, people won't do illegal things, but it actually makes it more widespread. So I think that the influence of gambling is plausible, but do I think that there's ongoing gambling involvement in professional sports leagues? Probably not for the most part. I gotta go plausible minus on that too. Just because team sports are hard to fix. You've got to have so many players on the take. I mean, it took 8 players on the 1919 White Sox team.
And that was in 1919.
And let's say this too. It took 8 players for them to do it. And at the end of the day, they really only got bailed out on the scheme. They might have still won the World Series because one of the pitchers who wasn't involved in it got sick. So he would have probably taken 2 starts that went to players that were in on the scheme. So, I don't know how effective gambling is, but
there's been a history of like Pete Rose. We could talk about Pete Rose. It's like, and we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about high level collusion. Conspiracies.
Yeah. And, or that gambling infects the league so much that it changes outcomes. Because Pete Rose was betting on lots of Major League Baseball games, including the Reds. That was proved to be true. There's really no evidence that he didn't play poorly. He didn't manage poorly. He bet on his team, but there's no evidence that he ever bet against the Reds.
Right.
Which, if he was betting against the Reds, that's where you'd start.
Then you see there's an influence. Why would you bet against the team that you're hired to make better?
Right. Then you could see, he's changing things. But if he's betting for the Reds, that kind of goes away. And it's the same thing with Antonio Brown in terms of the collusion. Yeah. If he went to the Patriots, and that's suspicious, but then they released him. He's not on a roster now.
I see it as more of like, those are his actions.
Yes. I think he's colluding with himself.
Crazy.
Yeah. He has some probably mental health issues that he needs to seek someone's help with. So that's what I think. By the way, I just want to say that the White Sox, the 1919 White Sox, the Black Sox, the mastermind of the whole thing was Chick Gandil, and I think that that's a fun name. And
it is a fun name.
I think that if Chick Gandil was alive today, Chick Gandil would be a big Lord of the Rings cosplayer called Chick Gandalf.
All right, well,
sexiest Gandalf around.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway, what's your verdict, Art?
My verdict, I don't even know if I want to give it now. Okay, so high-level collusion, influence of gambling to change the outcome of a sport. I think for the UFC, it's straight plausible.
Sure, I'll agree with that.
I think for NFL and NBA, it's plausible minus. I can see it happening, but I think overall, it's always going to be case-by-case basis where it's like, it's a mobster coming in to like try and, or a ref or somebody else. Like, it's not like some high-level thing that's like, hey, we've got this new story. We want the Lakers to win because LeBron and all the Hollywood people, But it's like, it's just always like that. It's always the big market teams that are like, very rarely did you ever have like small market teams like the Jazz that like they made like one championship run when they had Stockton and Malone. And it was like, that's it. That's all they've ever had in the modern era. It's like, it's always been Chicago, an East Coast team like New York or Boston or New England, that area. And then like the West Coast teams. And then sometimes there's other little teams that are like, hey, we're here. Like, Toronto's a huge city. It's a major city.
Big city.
They won the championship.
Yeah.
So it's not always these Eastern, and this is in an American sports league. So, and they had Drake, and nobody likes Drake. So,
yeah.
It's not like people like Drake.
No.
He's very unlikable.
Yeah.
And possibly
not a lot of fans.
Kind of a creep.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, seems like it.
So I think I'm going to go plausible minus. Do I think that there are still refs or even players that are being influenced by gambling? Yeah, plausible minus. I could totally see it happening. You're on the tail end of your career. You're not making as much money anymore. But a lot more difficult in the NBA and in the NFL, because if you're not good, you're riding the bench.
Right.
You have to work really fucking hard to still have a spot at age 31 in the NFL. You have to really fucking work hard. And
plus, then you have to be in a position to influence the outcome.
Yeah.
Which,
like,
one person being able to influence
the backup quarterback for the
Right.
Seahawks is not influencing anything.
Right.
Russell Wilson might be,
Right.
but the backup isn't. He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Unless he's like Hurts, like he fucking Tanya Harding's Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go with a blanket plausible minus. I think that in general it's probably just like gambling influences.
Yeah.
But for the UFC across the board, I'm gonna say a straight plausible.
Nice.
And for other fighting sports like boxing, for sure.
It's
But
not even
nobody really watches
kind
boxing.
of a fact, right?
Yeah. All right, listeners, that was our verdict on whether or not sports is rigged or faked.
2 scrumptious verdicts.
Let us know if what you think about this topic. Use the hashtag sports is rigged for your pleasure.
Yeah, rigged for your pleasure.
Hashtag
Another good Trojans reference.
sports is rigged for your pleasure. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about our verdicts. Send us a tweet at Mr. BunkerPod or email us MrBunkerPod@gmail.com. Andy, we got a big boy episode today. We got some fun little treats. Just here.
Got some fun things to throw at you, Art.
fun little segments. A little make 'em up segment.
Art, consider this. Say that you're a professional gambler, okay?
I am not. Gambling is one of the dumbest things you can ever do. I encourage you to never gamble. It is so stupid. Don't gamble.
Okay, well, pretend.
That being said, I am in a fantasy football league where I paid $20.
You idiot. That money's all mine now.
Yeah, my team is terrible.
So say you're a professional gambler. What's your gambling nickname?
Okay.
Which sport do you bet on the most?
Okay.
And which active player in that sport would you try to get in your pocket?
My gambling nickname, I'm going to go along the same vein as some of the animals. I want to join the animals. I think that's cool. I'm going to be Artie the Stone Crab. And you better watch out, Angie, because I'll pinch you.
Yeah.
But I'm also known around the office as a very frugal gambler, so I'm a penny pincher.
Yeah.
Watch out for the crab.
Yeah.
He'll pinch you.
Get you.
I bet on collegiate lacrosse. My team, Duke mostly. Duke and or Virginia. The only two good lacrosse teams. No, I'm going to bet on basketball, Andy. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet on a little player known as Patrick Beverley. You familiar with Patrick Beverley, Andy?
No.
I believe he's currently on the Clippers. I think he's currently on the Clippers. I could be wrong. Patrick Beverley, among many other players, is known for doing anything to win. He will get in your face. He's known also as a dirty player. He's had some dirty moves in the past. Famously, he ran into Russell Westbrook a few years back, and that caused Russell Westbrook to tear his meniscus. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's fucking terrible. Now, listeners at home are probably saying, but Art, what about Draymond Green and Matthew Dellavedova and Zaza Pachulia? Those guys are dirty. Well, listeners,
why do you ask it that way?
I don't know why they ask it that way. I fucking hate those guys. That's why. Especially Draymond Green and especially Matthew Dellavedova and Zaza Pachulia. Fuck them all.
Okay.
Because they tortured the Bulls and the Cavs. Draymond is one of the dirtiest players ever. And Patrick Beverley is from Chicago. That's why I pick him.
Ah, okay.
So I would get Beverley in my pocket. I'd be like, hey, go poke Chris Paul in the eyes some more. Which she did. Make a fist and smack your other hand into it on top of LeBron's head. Go whoop, 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 and spin on the court in a circle fashion, Patrick. Cause a delay a game.
You put him in
I'll
your
lie
pocket
in your
just to do
pockets.
Three Stooges antics on
That's
the court.
right. That's right, Andy.
Boy, the Stone Crab has confusing end game goals.
Yeah. Or I could have. I would probably. I'd probably get into esports. I'd probably start influencing that. A lot easier to do than you might think. A lot of them get caught cheating.
Yeah.
Some say it's like
Cheat codes?
the Tour de France, where they're all using hacks,
Yeah. Cheat codes.
wall hacks, aimbots,
Game Sharks.
old school game sharks to make their Pokemon get whatever move they want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yowza.
esports is rife for. There's a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
And the players don't make that much money. But that's what I would do.
All right. Now, Art.
Okay.
Say that you're a professional athlete.
I am.
Which sport do you play and which position?
Play professional podcasting.
Okay, which position?
Co-host.
You're approached by
Not good.
You're
Not a starter.
no, not making the Pro Bowl. You're approached by a gambling syndicate. What's your price to help them, and what are you willing to do?
You know, some days when I'm watching football, I think I could have played cornerback.
Cornerback?
Yeah, I could play cornerback.
Like in the defensive backfield?
Oh yeah, played.
Okay.
My build, I'm like 5'11". I put on some muscle.
Are you fast enough?
I used to be. Not anymore. Not anymore. I don't think I would ever make it as a wide receiver. I don't think I like getting hit that much. And I don't think I have good hands. So I don't think I'd play.
So, okay.
Obviously, the only professional sport I could ever potentially play would be professional esports.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much I would, I guess.
What position do you play? Tank? Healer?
I'd probably be a support main.
Yeah.
I don't have the quick reflexes for DPS. I'm a decent shot caller. When I used to play Rainbow Six Siege with my friends, I was really good at, like, I would study the map and I would study the techniques. I would know the best entry points and the best. Rainbow Six Siege is like a shooter where one team is defending like a location, the other team has to infiltrate and plant a bomb or kill the whole team, right?
Yeah.
So I was really good at like shot calling. I would be really good at call outs. I would play characters that could use there were like cameras and drones that you could install. And I'd be like, okay, you need to go down yellow stairs and attack arcade through the left entry. There's a guy on the right side. Do a quick flick to the right and you'll get him. You know, I would be really good at about stuff like that. I was a decent shot caller. So I think I would be a good like support main. I would probably install better cheating software than what is already used, like I mentioned.
So you wouldn't use Game Shark?
No, I would use better stuff. I don't know what the top wall hacks are, but I would probably say like 10 million.
Wow.
You can live off 10 million for a long time after taxes.
Right.
But I think like with esports, it doesn't really matter because the money you make, like even current esports professionals, the money they make from sponsorships and streaming on Twitch is exponentially more than they ever make in the tournaments. They only play in the tournaments for the love of competing. None of those guys do that for the money because they barely make anything comparatively. Like how much they have to play that fucking video game and sit there all day in their goddamn chairs just playing that stupid League of Legends clicking, just clicking all day. Like, you don't do that unless you fucking love that game. Same for every other sport.
Yeah.
It truly goes with anything in life. You can't do it because you want the money. You have to do it because you love it. It goes for podcasting. It goes for making art. It goes for making, obviously you deserve to be compensated what you think you deserve, but, you know, the money they make from streaming is it's just so much more. I mean, these top streamers are making like 10 grand a month.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
It's lucrative.
Games, if you have 10,000 on average viewers, a game company will come up and say, hey, play our game for an hour. We'll pay you 8 grand.
Yeah.
An hour of your time and you make 8 grand playing a video game.
Yeah.
Why would I sit there playing one game all day long, having to live in a house with a bunch of other people for no money? You know, I can live wherever I want.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I would do. Professional esports.
All right, now one last scenario, Art.
Oh, okay.
Pretend you're a professional wrestler.
Pretend.
Yeah, please. What's your wrestler name and what's your shtick? What's your finishing move?
Okay. My wrestler name. I used to, when I was a little kid, I had a character that I would play when I would wrestle with my friends or create a character in WWE SmackDown games called the Hammer. The Hammer wore a red do-rag,
Okay.
sunglasses,
Yeah.
bull horns, and fucking dope Jinko jeans with flames up the sides.
Nice.
And he was shirtless.
Yeah.
He was a bad ass.
Yeah.
He didn't
Sounds like
take
it.
shit from anybody. He loved hardcore matches.
Okay.
And I would do gores because I had those horns on my head.
Yeah.
I would do gores. And my finishing move was like this makeshift rock bottom.
Okay.
But I don't think that would work in today's modern WWE.
Okay.
The Hammer's a little too cartoony. It
Art.
doesn't really have a good theme. So I think my true character, I'm gonna go back to what we were talking about, like some of the bigger characters,
Yeah.
but not as cartoony. It's called the Mason. And my guy/stable tag team is known as the Lodge. We're hardworking blue-collar dudes who build structures based on loyalty and hard work. Our motto is hard work pays off. And it shows because our bodies are the hardest in the entire WWE. We're fucking ripped.
Yeah.
But all from blue-collar work.
Yeah.
We're not in the gym. We're laying brick. Laying pipe.
Yeah. Right.
We're using sledgehammers. And we're climbing ladders.
Yeah.
And
So you love
mixing
ladder-
cement.
Love ladder matches.
Love ladder matches. I think my finishing move is called the last nail. I have two. I full press my opponent's body above my head in a feat of athleticism and strength.
Yeah.
And then I kind of do like a makeshift F5 or Kurt Angle slam where I spin them like a pizza,
Yeah.
like a pizza dough.
Okay.
And then I maybe catch them in like a DDT, which is where you have their head in a headlock and you slam them back.
Right.
I also have a move called the Brick Breaker, which is either like a big boot from the top rope or some kind of leg drop move. And we're baby faces at first.
Right.
Then they can turn us heel by exposing our Masonic sex parties and orgies. And then we turn into the Illuminati and we're heel for a little while.
Okay.
And then maybe they turn us back. So that's my team.
Okay. Art, in case you couldn't think of one, I came up with one.
Yeah, let's hear yours. Or you're doing this for me.
This is for you.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Art, you're Mr. Invisible.
Oh, God.
You're part of a tag team with Gregarious Hunk. You frequently get tagged in, but other wrestlers only focus on Gregarious Hunk until you become enraged.
Wow, it's just like my life.
Your finisher is Social Justice. A brass bust of your likeness is always hidden somewhere near the ring. You retrieve it and beat your opponent with your own face. You let them keep the bust.
As a reminder. So I'm kind of like Al Snow. I have a head. Maybe I'm not as crazy. I don't talk to head. Maybe
Right.
I do.
Yeah.
Wow, this is true to life. Very true to life.
There
yeah,
you go.
that's pretty good. Mr. Invisible.
Mr. Or the Hammer or
Yeah. The
Wait.
Mason.
the Mason.
I think Mason was the name of or Maven was the right name of a wrestler, but might have been Mason.
Part of
but-
the lodge.
The Lodge, baby, blue collar bros. Given my body type, I could only ever be like a Spike Dudley. Just like part of someone else's team, but I don't actually wrestle that much because I'm 150 pounds. They just like put me through tables and stuff for comedic effect.
I would watch that.
Yeah. Well, that's us. Andy, did you come up with a wrestler? Do you have a wrestler? A wrestling identity?
I'll tell you what I thought about, Art. I thought about what I would do if I was a professional athlete.
Yeah.
I would be a professional golfer,
Oh, yeah.
and
I could see that for you.
Golfing, obviously, it's hard to adjust the outcome by your own personal play unless you just win outright. So I would be full on like the Tanya Harding of professional golf, where, we'd be at the range, when you get to the tournament.
Actually really talented and taken advantage of by your stupid husband?
Wife. But I would, when you're at the tournament, the golfers all go to the range and they're practicing their shots and stuff. I would just like whack balls at other more successful golfers until they became injured.
Wow. Andy, you really teed off, huh?
Yeah, I'm TO'd.
Yeah.
I'm TO, baby.
You're Terrell Owens of golf.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, listeners.
Watch me do one sit up in a driveway.
Yeah, when he worked out outside. Oh, NFL. Oh, okay. Listeners, that was our episode on Sports is Faked.
Here it was.
There it was, Andy.
This wasn't fake. This was real.
This was real, baby.
All too real.
A little too real. Listeners, let us know what you think. And let us know what your wrestling personalities would be and what sport you would play.
Yeah. Put yourself in any of those scenarios.
Yeah. And let us know. Maybe we'll read it on air.
Yeah.
We'd love to.
We'd love to read it.
Andy, any last words to say?
I like sports.
I like sports. Sports are fun. Probably because we're not good. We're not good at them.
Yeah.
We're not athletic. Go Bears. Anyway, for the titular
Mr. Bunker,
and for my Rosetian co-host, Andy Hart, I'm Arthur Stone saying that was the whole enchilada.
This episode is going, gone.